From a blind date came a sister who is a CEO. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 226, Qiao Yushan's arrangement. Su Weifeng coughed lightly and said, "Your idea is a bit unrealistic. Your parents and my parents can't explain it." Qiao Yushan said, "That's right. I just had this idea just now. It's really unrealistic, but I feel that the focus of this matter can be shifted." Shift? Su Weifeng looked at her in confusion. Qiao Yushan smiled faintly and said, "It's very simple. You know, my work is really busy. Now even if I come to your house occasionally, I have to take time out. For me, this is already a big burden." After a pause, Qiao Yushan continued, "I feel that Zhuang Xuan still enjoys this kind of life. In addition, she opened a company with you, which is more convenient to deal with this matter, so I still bear this name, but in reality, let Zhuang Xuan completely pretend to be your girlfriend, so that I can reduce the burden, and you don't have to worry about my affairs, and basically there will be no mistakes. This seems to be much simpler, but will Zhuang Xuan agree?" Su Weifeng felt that what Qiao Yushan said seemed to make sense, but there seemed to be many problems in it. "Don't you know whether she will agree or not?" Qiao Yushan asked with a smile. Su Weifeng felt that there was something else behind Qiao Yushan's words. He coughed and said, "I can't guarantee that. Although she has been having fun recently, she is pretending to be you. She can quit at any time, but if she is asked to pretend completely in the future, she will probably feel constrained." Qiao Yushan smiled and said, "I will talk to her now." Su Weifeng nodded. He felt that Qiao Yushan seemed to be afraid that he would collude with Lin Zhuangxun, and she didn't give Su Weifeng any time to communicate with Lin Zhuangxun. "Wait!" Su Weifeng suddenly shouted. "What's wrong?" Qiao Yushan's fingers had already started typing, and now she stopped and looked at Su Weifeng. Su Weifeng shook his head and said, "I feel that this matter is still inappropriate. Zhuangxun doesn't know that our relationship is fake. What will she do if you say that? She will directly know that the relationship between us is fake. Oh, this is really a problem." Qiao Yushan moved her fingers away from the phone, thought for a while, and said, "How about I tell her directly? Are you sure?" Su Weifeng asked doubtfully. "Haha, just kidding. If I tell her, she will be furious and will complain to my mom later. It's hard to say, but I feel that Zhuangxun must feel very upset that you have deceived her for so long. But this matter can still be changed." "Change? Look at this. I will tell her that I have been very busy recently. In fact, I'm really busy. This time the company's struggle will definitely make me busy and exhausted. First, it is not convenient for me to come, and second, I'm likely to bring bad emotions, which will make my aunt unhappy. I think Zhuangxun should accept such a reason. If that's the case, it's a reasonable reason. Okay, then it's settled. I will tell Zhuangxun now." After speaking, Qiao Yushan's fingers flew, and she sent the reason she just said to Lin Zhuangxun in front of Su Weifeng. After a while, Lin Zhuangxun's message came back, and Qiao Yushan directly asked Su Weifeng to read the message. "Oh my god, how long do you want me to support you? Are you still okay? It's hard to say how long it will take. It may take a long time. Please help me, otherwise I really can't take care of both ends. Damn, aren't you afraid that there will be problems in your relationship with Weifeng? You are here, so what can go wrong? Even if there is a problem, it's between you two. It's also a good thing." Su Weifeng felt so uneasy when he saw this sentence. He even felt that Qiao Yushan was testing their relationship. But when she said this, she didn't look at him meaningfully, and there was no other expression on her face. It was like a joke. "Get out, I don't care. You are asking me for help, but you are worried that something might happen to Weifeng, and I can't take this responsibility. I'm kidding you. You are my closest sister. If you don't help me with this, then the relationship between Weifeng and I will easily have problems. If I can't see him for 10 days or half a month, how would I know what he would do? You have to keep an eye on him for me. HMPH, never mind. I'm sad, and your heart is hurt. Then let me comfort you and give you a red envelope. Qiao Yushan directly transferred a red envelope of 1,888. That's more or less. For the sake of the red envelope, I'll do you this favor, but don't mess around. Just let it go. You can't abandon your boyfriend just because of your career. This is also something that suddenly happened in the company. I really can't get away. Okay, I'll leave this matter to you. When I'm done here, I will definitely thank you again. Okay, that's it. But you finally fed someone tonight. Feed? What do you mean fed? Qiao Yushan was a little confused. Think about it slowly. I won't talk to you anymore. I'm going to play. You two are reunited after a short separation. I don't want to be your light bulb. Qiao Yushan finally understood the meaning of Lin Zhuangxuan's words and turned her head awkwardly to glance at Su Weifeng. Su Weifeng coughed lightly and pretended not to see it. Qiao Yushan put down her phone and said, okay, this matter has been arranged. Let Zhuangxuan take over for the time being. Su Weifeng nodded and said, if there is anything you can't solve at your company, just tell me. Qiao Yushan also nodded and said, if I really can't solve it, I will tell you. The two spoke very naturally, and Qiao Yushan also subconsciously felt that Su Weifeng could still help her with things she couldn't solve. After turning off the lights, Su Weifeng lay on the bed, thinking of a question in his mind. Qiao Yushan is not afraid that, if he and Lin Zhuangxuan get along day and night like this, something will really happen one day. But this question really can't be asked. If it is asked, it seems to show that he has such an idea. After a while, Qiao Yushan turned around and looked at Su Weifeng. In the night, her eyes looked very bright. What's wrong? Su Weifeng asked puzzledly. Thank you, I feel quite happy during this period. Qiao Yushan smiled slightly, then closed her eyes and said, go to sleep. Chapter 227 Mysterious Neighbor. The next day, Su Weifeng sent Qiao Yushan to the company and went directly to his own company. As soon as he entered the office, Lin Zhuangxuan slipped in, then closed the door quietly, and then came to Su Weifeng's side. Su Weifeng chuckled and said, why do you act like a thief? Lin Zhuangxuan looked Su Weifeng up and down and said, why did my sister suddenly say that last night? I felt something was wrong. It's nothing. She's just been too busy lately and really can't spare the time. Instead of reluctantly taking out a day or two, you might as well devote yourself to work. This way it's all yours and there won't be any problems. Lin Zhuangxuan said, really? Well, how could I lie to you? Thank you for your hard work during this period. I also thank you on behalf of Yushan. Lin Zhuangxuan immediately patted Su Weifeng on the shoulder, laughed, and said, it's quite interesting that you talk like that. Okay, I'll help you with this matter. Just don't forget my kindness in the future. Su Weifeng hurriedly said, of course. Yushan and I will always remember your kindness. Yeah, that's good enough. Let's get to work. Lin Zhuangxuan patted Su Weifeng on the shoulder again and walked out directly. The steps were quite normal at first, but when he walked out, it was as if he jumped out directly, and then he actually jogged all the way. How could it be so obvious that he was so excited? Just after the lunch break, Lin Zhuangxuan came over and pulled Su Weifeng out. Let's go out. Where to? Su Weifeng asked puzzledly. Let's go to the new house. Auntie has been working so hard to decorate the house, and we don't have to worry about it. But we can't just sit there and do nothing. We should visit her from time to time and bring her some food or something. This is what we have to do. Su Weifeng chuckled and said jokingly, you get into the role really quickly. That's a must. Whatever I do, I have to do well, or I won't do it. With Qiao Yushan's personality, it won't work to ask her to do something to please auntie. Even if she's pretending, she'll appear careless. It's just right for me to help her lay the foundation at this time, in case auntie doesn't like her. Aren't you afraid that you're doing too well now, and Yushan won't be able to do it later? Lin Zhuangxuan said indifferently, when that time comes, you'll get married and move into the new house. Auntie will definitely not live with you now. If we don't live together, it won't be so easy to be exposed. They drove to the community of the new house, and the takeaway ordered by Lin Zhuangxuan was delivered to the entrance of the community. When they arrived at the new house, Shenji's face was so happy that it blossomed, but he said in a tone of reproach, "Yushan, you are so busy. Why do you still come to bring me food? I just need a bite." Lin Zhuangxuan pulled Shenji's arm and said, "That won't do. You are very tired after decorating the house for us. How can we let you eat those things? I feel guilty that I don't have the ability to cook for you, so how can I not bring you some delicious food? Sister, your daughter is so filial." Today, another group of new workers arrived. They saw Lin Zhuangxuan and Su Weifeng for the first time. When they saw this scene, they smiled and praised them. Shenji smiled all of a sudden and said, "No, no, this is my daughter-in-law." The decorator immediately said in surprise, "Ah, your daughter-in-law, this is really unexpected. It's normal for your daughter to hang on to you like this, but it's really rare for a daughter-in-law to do this." Shenji said even more proudly, "That's right, my daughter-in-law is very good to me, and our daughter-in-law is not an ordinary person. She is the president of Lin Feng Company, and often appears on TV. My god, I know Lin Feng Company, it's a big company. No wonder your family can buy a villa and marry such a rich daughter-in-law. I didn't expect that the president of a company is so young and so filial." Lin Zhuangxuan immediately said, "Auntie bought us such a good house and worked so hard to help with the decoration. We don't have to worry about it. It's completely my duty to show my filial piety." When the decorator heard this, he immediately showed respect to Shenji and said, "Sister, it seems that your family is really powerful, otherwise how could you marry such a daughter-in-law?" Shenji was even happier after hearing this. Lin Zhuangxuan's words definitely made her proud. If others thought that the money was all paid by her daughter-in-law, she, the mother-in-law, would actually lose face. Lin Zhuangxuan directly revealed this matter. When the three of them were having dinner together, Lin Zhuangxuan and Shenji were chatting happily, and Lin Zhuangxuan's giggles could be heard from time to time. Su Weifeng basically couldn't say anything next to him. This made Su Weifeng feel that Qiao Yushan had completely handed over the identity of her recent girlfriend to Lin Zhuangxuan yesterday, which made Lin Zhuangxuan really substitute as a girlfriend, and it didn't seem like she was acting at all. "By the way, I saw the neighbor next door again today." Shenji's words immediately aroused Su Weifeng's interest. Lin Zhuangxuan became even more interested and said, "She's here again today, so let's go and have a look." Shenji said she should be gone soon, but she left a WeChat. Lin Zhuangxuan immediately said tentatively, "Can I take a look at her information?" "Why not? You guys can add her later. You young people can communicate with me in the future. What can you say to an old lady like me?" Shenji said as he clicked on the neighbor's personal information. Lin Zhuangxuan took the phone, and Su Weifeng leaned over to read it together. "Remember for a lifetime. This is the WeChat nickname of the neighbor. In addition to this name, it also shows that the location is Beijing, and there is no other personal information. Even the avatar is just a cartoon pattern searched from the internet." Clicking on the moments, there are only 2 posts, both of which are pictures of new houses, and nothing else. Lin Zhuangxuan frowned and said, "Oh my god, this is too simple. It feels like this WeChat account is newly registered." Shenji said, "She said that this is a new mobile phone number she registered here, and she also created a WeChat account. Her previous WeChat accounts were mostly for people at work, and this account is only used to add friends here." Lin Zhuangxuan curled her lips and said, "That's quite mysterious. I really want to see who this woman is now." Chapter 228 Zhao Zhaoshu. After Su Weifeng sent Lin Zhuangxuan back to the company, he went to Yangcheng University in Yangcheng. The company wanted to shoot a story on a university campus and needed some scenes in the classroom. This required contacting the school so that they could borrow the classroom. This matter was handed over to Su Weifeng. After parking the car at the school gate, Su Weifeng walked straight into the school. He didn't need to register to enter the university gate. Looking at the young people coming and going in the school, Su Weifeng couldn't help but sigh. The biggest regret of his life might be that he had never attended university. When others were carefree in college, he was already fighting on the battlefield. You are the brother Feng that day?" A girl came towards him. They had already missed each other, but suddenly turned around and came to Su Weifeng excitedly. Su Weifeng looked at the girl. She was wearing an ordinary t-shirt and trousers. Her face was very beautiful. With strong joy, he immediately recognized her. This was Zhao Xiaoshu, the girl selling wine that he met in the bar that day. Su Weifeng also smiled and said, "Hey, you are in this school?" Zhao Xiaoshu nodded repeatedly and said, "Yes, yes, thanks to you for helping me last time. I have been thinking about it. It's just a small matter, don't worry about it. By the way, I just happened to meet you. If you don't have anything to do, can you do me a favor?" Of course, of course. Zhao Xiaoshu felt very happy to be able to help Su Weifeng. Su Weifeng smiled and said, "It's like this. Our company wants to shoot a short film and needs to borrow a classroom in the school. Which department in your school should we contact for this matter?" It seems that we should go to the logistics department. I'm not sure about this. I'll go and ask for you first. Zhao Xiaoshu immediately took out his mobile phone to ask someone, and soon looked up and said, "It is indeed necessary to contact the logistics department. As long as the logistics department agrees, it will be fine." "Okay, then I will go to the logistics department. I'll take you there." Zhao Xiaoshu had a sweet smile on his face. "Is this not a bother to you?" "It's okay, I don't have classes in the afternoon. Besides, you have helped me so much, so I can only help you with such a small thing. Then I won't be polite to you." Okay. Zhao Xiaoshu was even happier, and walked into the school side by side with Su Weifeng. After walking a few steps, Su Weifeng found a topic and asked, "You haven't been to that bar again, have you?" Zhao Xiaoshu seemed to remember the scene of that day, and shuddered involuntarily, and said, "Never went there again. I didn't expect there would be that kind of person there. I'm not always so lucky to meet Brother Feng and save me." "You don't have to call me that. My last name is Su." Zhao Xiaoshu said hurriedly, "Then I'll call you Brother Su." Su Weifeng asked again, "Okay, then are you still working now?" Zhao Xiaoshu said, "I haven't found a suitable one yet. I can only go there after class, and basically I can only work at night. Such a job is really not easy to find. It's usually in bars and karaoke halls, or waiters in some restaurants." Zhao Xiaoshu said helplessly, "Yes, but places like this usually have a lot of people. I really don't dare to go there now, but I need to find a job." Su Weifeng turned his head to look at Zhao Xiaoshu and said, "Are you short of money?" Zhao Xiaoshu said with a somewhat lonely look, "My family members all died in a car accident last year. At that time, my parents were still in debt. I sold everything in the house to pay off the debt. Now if I don't work, I will have no living expenses and tuition fees." Su Weifeng said apologetically, "I'm so sorry for talking about your sad story." Zhao Xiaoshu shook his hair lightly and smiled again on his face, saying, "I won't lose hope in life. There are still good people like Brother Su in this world." Su Weifeng chuckled and said, "I would be embarrassed if you praise me like this." Zhao Xiaoshu said seriously, "I'm serious. Brother Su and I have never met before. He saved me that day and didn't ask me for anything. I really can't express my gratitude." A car drove over from behind, then turned the wheel diagonally in front of Su Weifeng and the others, and stopped directly. The tires rubbed against the ground, making a harsh sound. The car was a Honda Accord worth about 200,000 yuan. When the door opened, two people jumped out of the car. They were two young boys, and they seemed to be students in the school. Zhao Xiaoshu. "Who is he?" The two men directly blocked the way of Su Weifeng and Zhao Xiaoshu. The boy with long flowing hair on the left had a dark face and stared at Zhao Xiaoshu. Zhao Xiaoshu's brows suddenly frowned and he said, "Song Qiuping, don't make trouble. This is my friend." "Friend?" The long-haired boy looked at Su Weifeng again and found that he was obviously older and not a student in the school. His expression relaxed a little, and a smile appeared on his face. He said, "Xiaoshu, let's go out and play together tonight. I just got a new car. Let's go for a ride." Zhao Xiaoshu said with a straight face, "Sorry, I have something to do tonight." Song Qiuping still had a smile on his face and said, "No, look at this new car. The first car in your life. This is such a worthy thing to celebrate. I don't want to find anyone else. I just want you to celebrate with me." Zhao Xiaoshu's brows were already frowned, and he said, "Then you find someone else to celebrate. I really don't have time to go out and play with you." Song Qiuping also frowned and said, don't you just want to go out to work? Didn't I tell you that, as long as you follow me, I will be responsible for your living expenses in the future? Why do you have to work so hard? Zhao Xiaoshu snorted and said, thank you for your kindness. I, Zhao Xiaoshu, have not fallen to the point where I need to be supported by others. I can still rely on my own hands to make a living and go to school. Song Qiuping said, then you are working too hard. It makes me feel bad. Besides, you're a girl, why should you work so hard? When you graduate, you can go to work in my dad's company with me, and the company will belong to both of us in the future. Another boy said with a smile, Zhao Xiaoshu, you know how many girls are chasing after Qiuping, but he doesn't like anyone but you. If you keep holding on to him, and Qiuping is sad one day, you will never have such an opportunity again. Zhao Xiaoshu shrugged and said, I'm sorry, I'll give this opportunity to someone else. Please don't bother me again in the future. I'm really not interested in you. Zhao Xiaoshu, don't be shameless. Do you really think I'm begging you? Song Qiuping suddenly turned his face and glared. Chapter 229, Angry out of shame. Zhao Xiaoshu was startled and instinctively moved a step towards Su Weifeng, and his hand directly grabbed Su Weifeng's arm. Song Qiuping's face suddenly became even uglier, and he said in a deep voice, okay, I was wondering why you kept rejecting me. I thought you were pure and innocent, but it turns out that you found a man outside. I didn't. This is my friend. Zhao Xiaoshu subconsciously explained. Song Qiuping curled his lips and said with disdain, friend? Asterisk asterisk. Or is he kept by someone? I don't think he is very good. The clothes are not famous brands, just some street stall goods. You followed him like this. You are too cheap. You. Zhao Xiaoshu's face suddenly turned red. She was so angry that she didn't know how to speak after being slandered like this. Su Weifeng had been watching from the side and didn't interrupt. If they were a couple, it would not be good for him to get involved. Now it seems that Song Qiuping is not Zhao Xiaoshu's boyfriend at all, and he failed to pursue her, and he still used such foul language, which is simply too tasteless. Su Weifeng snorted with a gloomy face, saying, boy, keep your mouth clean. What if I'm not clean? Who the hell do you think you can protect, Zhao Xiaoshu? I'm telling you, get out of school right now, otherwise don't blame me for being rude to you. Su Weifeng was suddenly happy and said, then I want to see how you are rude to me. Brother Su, don't bother with him, let's go. Zhao Xiaoshu hurriedly pulled Su Weifeng. Su Weifeng was like her benefactor. If she met him again, she would cause trouble for Su Weifeng again, and she would not feel at ease. Song Qiuping directly blocked Su Weifeng's way and shouted, want to leave? You want to leave after offending me? If he doesn't give me an explanation today, he won't be able to leave the school gate. Su Weifeng shrugged his shoulders and said to Zhao Xiaoshu, it's better to teach such a nasty guy a lesson, otherwise he will have trouble with you in the future. Fuck, are you pretending to be cool with me? Song Qiuping glared at Su Weifeng. Su Weifeng shook his head and said, no, I really don't have the interest to pretend to be cool with a little brat like you. Go to hell. Song Qiuping shouted loudly and punched Su Weifeng in the face. Zhao Xiaoshu screamed in fear, but he dodged and actually stood in front of Su Weifeng. This action surprised Su Weifeng. You have to know that this kind of behavior of blocking harm for others is really not something that ordinary people can do, because ordinary people will instinctively dodge when they encounter danger. Only those who have received professional training can use their bodies to bear the harm for others when they encounter danger, or the close relatives, such as parents protecting their children, will burst out such potential. Zhao Xiaoshu obviously has not received such training. It is really surprising that she can make such a move at this time. Although she was surprised, Su Weifeng's actions were not slow at all. He directly pulled Zhao Xiaoshu into his arms, stretched out his left hand, and grabbed Song Qiuping's fist. Little brat, you haven't grown all your hair yet, and you want to fight with me? Su Weifeng said sarcastically, and pressed his arm down lightly. Ah! Song Qiuping screamed immediately, and his body bent down as Su Weifeng pressed his arm down. Boy, stay away from Zhao Xiaoshu from now on, or I will beat you up every time I see you. Su Weifeng's hand shook, and he threw Song Qiuping out. For such guys who don't know their place, it's useless to talk nicely to them. You have to use tough means to scare them, so that they won't dare to mess around again. Song Qiao fell heavily to the ground, making a dull sound, and the dust on the ground was splashed. Song Qiao was like a toad that was stepped on. After screaming, he could only open his mouth dryly, and he couldn't even scream because of the pain. Su Weifeng's eyes swept to another guy. The guy wanted to take action, but at this time he was so scared that he was dumbfounded. He quickly ran away and only stood firm after being a few meters away from Su Weifeng. HMPH. Su Weifeng snorted disdainfully and pulled Zhao Xiaoshu away. You wait. Song Qiao wanted to get up, but after struggling for a few times, he still sat down on the ground, pointing at Su Weifeng and yelling loudly. Su Weifeng turned his head and looked at him coldly. The expression on Song Qiao face froze instantly, and he opened his mouth dryly, but he could no longer say a harsh word. What a waste. Su Weifeng threw down a word with disdain and turned away again. Turning a corner, he could no longer see Song Qiao. Zhao Xiaoshu sighed and said to Su Weifeng apologetically, "Brother Su, I wanted to help you, but I ended up causing trouble for you again." Su Weifeng smiled slightly and said, "You just said that I'm your friend. Since we are friends, if you encounter trouble, of course I will help you solve it." Zhao Xiaoshu's eyes suddenly turned red, and she choked and said, "Thank you, Brother Su. Why are you crying again?" Su Weifeng smiled and patted her shoulder. "I've been living a hard life since my parents passed away. I know that many people help me with some ulterior motives, so I don't want others to help me. I just want to live by my own efforts. Only Brother Su, you help me without asking for anything in return." Su Weifeng felt sad when he listened and said, "It's really not easy for a girl of your age to bear the burden of life. It's even more rare that you can still maintain your dignity. Just for this reason, if you encounter any trouble in the future, come to me, and I will help you." Zhao Xiaoshu wiped his eyes, and when he put his hand down, a smile appeared on his face, and he said, "Thank you, Brother Su, I can still do it myself." Su Weifeng smiled and said, "You are such a stubborn and self-reliant little girl, but it's not a big deal. You can handle it by yourself. Protecting yourself is the most important thing. So if you need help, you still have to tell me, otherwise you don't regard me as your friend." "Yeah, I understand." Zhao Xiaoshu nodded repeatedly. This time, he did not reject Su Weifeng's kindness. Walking with Su Weifeng, she really didn't feel wary and felt very relaxed. It might be because the first time Su Weifeng saved her, he left an indelible impression on her. That impression made her feel a strong sense of security. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 230, Master of the Martial Arts Club. Under the guidance of Zhao Xiaoshu, Su Weifeng found the school's logistics department. After explaining his purpose, the director of the logistics department did not agree immediately, but asked Su Weifeng to take out the films he had shot in the past. After all, many films nowadays are those that show off their appearances, and if they are spread out, it will be bad for the school's reputation. Su Weifeng first showed him the finished films that the company had shot before, and then told the director about the outline of the script. Let's put it this way, Zhao Xiaoshu, you are from the school's art department, and I have an impression of you. After our logistics department arranges the classroom, you will be responsible for the connection. If there is anything wrong with the filming, you must stop it. Zhao Xiaoshu hurriedly said, "Okay, I will take responsibility for this matter." Su Weifeng knew that the director of the logistics department was still a little worried about Su Weifeng and the others, so he sent Zhao Xiaoshu to supervise. Su Weifeng did not dislike it and felt that the director was very principled. After discussing some details, Su Weifeng and Zhao Xiaoshu left. Walking out of the office building, Su Weifeng said jokingly, "Haha, you will be our supervisor later. Whether we can shoot the film will all be in your hands. Do I have to bribe you? How about treating you to a meal? Haha, don't worry, I will bring my girlfriend. Zhao Xiaoshu immediately said embarrassedly, Brother Su, I'm just helping out. How can I supervise you? Just based on your character, I also believe that the things you shoot must be very good. Su Weifeng shook his head and said a little seriously, you can't blindly trust a person. Some people are still very deceptive in appearance. No matter what, you must be vigilant, especially for a beautiful girl like you. There must be a lot of people who are interested in you. I will definitely be cautious with others, but I just believe in Brother Su. No matter what, I believe in you. Ha, then you'd better be careful, I'll sell you out. Zhao Xiaoshu pursed his lips and smiled, saying, if you want to sell me out, then I will help you count the money. Su Weifeng was stunned for a moment. Why did this sentence sound so familiar? After thinking about it carefully, he remembered that Sun Yumeng had also said this sentence before. What's wrong? Zhao Xiaoshu asked puzzledly when he saw Su Weifeng was stunned. Haha, an employee in my company also said this. I suddenly feel like you guys have given me a nice guy card. Zhao Xiaoshu was even happier and said, I told you, Brother Su must be a trustworthy person, otherwise why would others say so? This is not a nice guy card. I just really feel that Brother Su is a good person. Su Weifeng chuckled and said, well, luckily I have a girlfriend, otherwise I would feel like a failure if girls always said this to me. Zhao Xiaoshu asked curiously, Brother Su's girlfriend is the beautiful sister that day? No, she's just my friend. My girlfriend and I work in the same company and she's my immediate superior. After Su Weifeng finished speaking, he couldn't help but mutter in his heart, why did he habitually introduce Lin Zhuangxuan as his girlfriend, as if his girlfriend Qiao Yushan was becoming less and less noticeable. Zhao Xiaoshu said seriously, I really want to see what kind of girlfriend a man as outstanding as Brother Su has to have such good luck. Su Weifeng couldn't help but smile and said, it feels so good when you praise people. I don't feel that you are flattering at all. I'm speaking the truth. Zhao Xiaoshu blushed again. As they were talking, a group of 5 or 6 boys came over quickly. Seeing those people, Zhao Xiaoshu's face suddenly changed, and he said anxiously, Brother Su, run, they are coming to beat you. Su Weifeng smiled slightly and said, can they beat me? Ah, that's true. Then Brother Su, this is a school. If you hurt someone, it will also affect your ability to borrow a classroom. It's better not to bother with them. Su Weifeng said, if they don't provoke me, I won't bother with some kids. Zhao Xiaoshu's mouth twitched. Song Qiuping is not a good guy. He brought so many people, he must want to beat Su Weifeng. He has to think of a way to prove that Su Weifeng was forced to have a conflict with them. Those people rushed over and surrounded Su Weifeng and Zhao Xiaoshu. Song Qiuping pointed at Su Weifeng and said to a tall young man next to him, Lin Yu, this guy beat me. The young man was wearing a tight black vest and sports shorts. His muscles were bulging, and his square face made him look very powerful. Did you beat my friend? The guy named Lin Yu looked at Su Weifeng with a condescending attitude. Su Weifeng said lightly, not bad. Lin Yu nodded and said, very good. It seems that you are also a martial artist. My name is Lin Yu, the president of our school's martial arts club. Let's have a fight. Not interested. Su Weifeng refused directly. He really had no interest in fighting or competing. Song Qiuping glared and said, boy, weren't you very awesome when you beat me just now? Why are you so scared when you meet Lin Yu? Su Weifeng glanced at Song Qiuping and said, you are really a person who only remembers the food and not the beating. What, do you want to be beaten by me again? Song Qiuping's face became even angrier and said, boy, Lin Yu is here this time. He will definitely beat you to a pulp. Lin Yu also said arrogantly, boy, I can show mercy when I'm sparring with you. If you really want me to beat you, then I won't be polite. Su Weifeng smiled faintly and said, I'm not used to others being polite to me. If you really want to fight, then I don't mind. Lin Yu's face sank and said, boy, you are quite arrogant. If I don't teach you a lesson today, do you really think that there is no one in our Yang University? Su Weifeng shook his head and said, really? I don't think you are that good. Haha. The people next to him laughed at this time. Lin Yu, he doesn't like you. Yeah, he doesn't know how to spar with you. Basically, he can't get up unless he lies in the hospital for a few months. Don't say that. I'm afraid this kid will be scared to death. Several people laughed at Su Weifeng, and Zhao Xiaoshu's face turned pale all of a sudden. She had heard of this Lin Yu in school. He was definitely a ruthless person. It was said that he beat up more than a dozen people from the Taekwondo club, and some of them were beaten and stayed in the hospital for half a month. From then on, the Taekwondo people could no longer lift their bodies. Su Weifeng might not be able to fight him, right? Chapter 231. This is your boyfriend, right? Brother Su, let's go. That Lin Yu is very powerful. Zhao Xiaoshu grabbed Su Weifeng's arm, stood on tiptoe, put her mouth close to Su Weifeng's ear, and whispered softly. She just wanted to kindly remind Su Weifeng, and didn't think too much about it. But in Song Qiuping's eyes, this was a manifestation of intimacy. In school, everyone knew that Zhao Xiaoshu was his type. How could he bear it when Zhao Xiaoshu showed affection with another man in front of everyone? Song Qiuping's eyes were red, and he gritted his teeth and said, Lin Yu, teach him a lesson today, and I'll treat you all to a big dinner in the sea tonight. Okay. Lin Yu agreed happily and said, boy, come on, let's go to the martial arts club, so that I can beat you up without worrying about being punished by the school. Su Weifeng narrowed his eyes and said, your suggestion is not bad, and I don't want people to think that I'm bullying the weak. He came to the school to do business. If he beat up a student in the school in such an occasion, even if he was justified, it might affect the classroom rental. Brother Su. Zhao Xiaoshu grabbed Su Weifeng's arm anxiously and pulled it back hard, not wanting him to go. Su Weifeng patted the back of Zhao Xiaoshu's hand with his other hand and said with a smile, don't you have so little confidence in me? It's either or. Zhao Xiaoshu didn't know how to answer for a while. Don't worry, I will be gentle and teach them a lesson. Seeing Su Weifeng's calm expression and his easy smile, Zhao Xiaoshu felt relieved and said softly, okay, don't hit them too hard, otherwise the school will know, and it will have an impact. Yeah. Su Weifeng nodded. Zhao Xiaoshu's voice was not loud, but others could still hear it. This was completely disregarding Lin Yu. Lin Yu said with a dark face, boy, you are really crazy. I hope that, when we fight later, your fists will be as hard as your mouth. Su Weifeng smiled faintly and said, do I need to use fists to deal with a little kid like you? I think you are just good at talking. Let's wait and see. Lin Yu sneered and then strode forward. On the way to the martial arts club, many people noticed their group. First of all, Zhao Xiaoshu is a famous beauty in the school, Lin Yu is the most famous ruthless person in the school, and Song Qiuping is also a kind of rich second generation who is more outspoken. These three people are almost household names in the school. When they get together at this time, it is hard not to attract attention. What are these people doing? I heard that Zhao Xiaoshu found a man outside the school. Song Qiuping had a conflict with that man and was beaten. Now she found Lin Yu to help him out. Oh my god, it's going to be lively now. We must go and take a look. People who knew the news took pictures of Su Weifeng and his group and directly forwarded it to their friends. Soon, more and more people knew about this. When Su Weifeng and his group arrived at the martial arts club, there were already no less than 100 people gathered there, and it was obvious that more people were on their way. The martial arts club was in the school's gymnasium and occupied a lot of rooms. The most important thing was a practice field. This practice field was as large as 150 to 160 square meters. In the school, it was considered the best place. After entering, the onlookers stood directly on the periphery. It was not long before the door was completely blocked. Those who came later could not enter the door. The others had dispersed at this time, and only Lin Yu and Su Weifeng stood in the middle. Zhao Xiaoshu stood aside, looking anxious. He said that he had confidence in Su Weifeng, but when he thought of Lin Yu's strength, he was still worried that Su Weifeng would be injured. Xiaoshu, my god, it's true? Two girls squeezed to Zhao Xiaoshu's side and immediately screamed in surprise. They were Zhao Xiaoshu's roommates. One was Yao and the other was Shen Menqing. Ah, what's true? Zhao Xiaoshu was a little confused by the two people's question. You found a boyfriend outside the school. He seems okay. At least he looks pretty impressive standing there. Is he rich? Zhao Xiaoshu's face turned red all of a sudden, and she stammered, you misunderstood. He is my friend, an ordinary friend. Yao curled her lips and said, "Stop talking nonsense. You don't even admit it. She's fighting with Lin Yu just for you." Shen Menking rolled her eyes at Zhao Xiaoshu with contempt and said, "Xiaoshu, we are good sisters. You actually hid such a big thing from us. Can't you still consider us friends?" Zhao Xiaoshu said with a red face, "That's really not the case. If it were true, I couldn't hide it from you." The two rolled their eyes at Zhao Xiaoshu again, obviously not believing what Zhao Xiaoshu said. "Xiaoshu, why are you still fighting with Lin Yu gang? Will your boyfriend be crippled by Lin Yu? Yeah, why didn't you try to stop him? Who is Lin Yu? How could you let your boyfriend be so arrogant?" Zhao Xiaoshu hurriedly said, "No, Lin Yu should not be able to beat him." "So awesome." The two of them immediately cast their eyes on Su Weifeng. "There is actually someone who can beat Lin Yu." Lin Yu raised his arm and said loudly, "Today I'm sparring with him here. It is just a normal kung fu sparring. It is inevitable to get hurt in sparring. Everyone should be a witness, so as not to say that I, Lin Yu, bully others by taking advantage of my power." Su Weifeng couldn't help but smile. This guy's really not stupid. He also knows how to shirk responsibility. He said lightly, "Okay, you don't need to say these polite words anymore. Let's just start fighting. I have something else to do, and I don't have time to show off with you here." Lin Yu was embarrassed by what Su Weifeng said. He snorted and said, "Since you are so anxious to get beaten, I will fulfill your wish. Are you ready? Come on." Su Weifeng's hands hung casually at his side, with a relaxed smile on his face, not taking Lin Yu seriously at all. Su Weifeng's attitude made Lin Yu even more unhappy. He shouted, "Watch this." He stepped forward with his left leg and hit Su Weifeng's chest with a black tiger heart-piercing move with his right hand. Su Weifeng was also a little surprised. This move was extremely simple. Anyone who had learned a little bit of kung fu could use it, but those people basically only understood the form, but not the meaning. Lin Yu's punch was full of power. The most important thing was that he only used 70% of his strength to attack, and the other 30% of his strength was not released. As long as Su Weifeng counterattacked or dodged, this move would immediately turn into other moves. This guy was actually a powerful master. This was not something that was trained in an ordinary martial arts gym. Chapter 232 I don't have the time. Su Weifeng narrowed his eyes and punched out directly, also using the black tiger heart digger move. Damn, this guy is looking for death. Yeah, look at Lin Yu's strength. I can guarantee that this guy's arm will be broken. Lin Yu's face sank. The opponent actually used the same move as him. This was an insult to him. He snorted coldly, and his fist collided with Su Weifeng's fist. The 3-point strength that had not been released was also directly released at this time. Since Su Weifeng wanted to fight him head on, he would beat Su Weifeng to death with one move. Puff. The two fists collided with each other without any tricks, making a dull sound. Both of them were shocked, and then took a step back at the same time. "Let's see, his hand must be broken. For sure." Many people immediately shouted excitedly. They had strong confidence in Lin Yu. Zhao Xiaoshu grabbed the hands of his two roommates with both hands, almost using all his strength, as if he could add strength to Su Weifeng in this way. Although the two roommates felt some pain, they still stared at Su Weifeng. They were also curious about whether Su Weifeng was really powerful. But to everyone's surprise, Su Weifeng did not show any pain at this time. He still had a calm smile on his face and said, "Not bad. You still have some tricks." "You have some tricks?" Lin Yu's eyes suddenly showed excitement and said, "I underestimated you. I have to admit that you can fight with me, but I don't want you to have only these two tricks. That would disappoint me." Su Weifeng smiled and said, "Come again." Everyone was a little stunned. In their minds, Lin Yu was invincible. No matter who it was, they would be abused by Lin Yu. They didn't expect that the man Zhao Xiaoshu found had such strength that Lin Yu even took it seriously. Zhao Xiaoshu let out a long breath and his hands loosened. Yao rolled her eyes at Zhao Xiaoshu and said with a pout, "You still don't admit it. Look how nervous you were just now." Shen Menking said excitedly, "Xiaoshu's boyfriend is so tough. I like this kind of tough guy the most." Zhao Xiaoshu spat at the two of them, but it was too late to explain. The two in the middle had already started fighting again. Lin Yu shouted loudly, and his fists and feet were like the wind, and he attacked Su Weifeng. Su Weifeng raised his hands and waved his arms casually, easily defusing Lin Yu's attacks again and again. In the eyes of outsiders, Lin Yu was just surrounding Su Weifeng and fighting, and Su Weifeng could only defend there. Many people from the martial arts club cheered. People who didn't understand were also watching the excitement. After all, when they usually saw Lin Yu fighting with others, it was resolved in a few moves. How could they see such a wonderful fight? After a minute, Su Weifeng had basically confirmed Lin Yu's identity. This guy should be from the Lin and Lin family, and the boxing method he used was the Lin family storm fist. He had some friendship with the Lin family. In addition, although Lin Yu was a bit fierce, at least he was fair in his fights, so Su Weifeng didn't want to teach him too much. That's about it. Su Weifeng said lightly, and suddenly stretched out his hand and grabbed Lin Yu's arm, and then took advantage of the situation and threw Lin Yu out. Lin Yu's body, which was almost 200 pounds, actually flew directly over Su Weifeng's head and fell heavily to the ground. Wow. Everyone in the venue exclaimed, and then they were stunned and quiet. Lin Yu stood up again with a somersault, but he stood there without moving, staring at Su Weifeng in a daze. Su Weifeng smiled slightly and said, "Storm Fist, you have only learned 50% of it. You need to work harder." Lin Yu's originally embarrassed expression suddenly froze, and then he quickly came to Su Weifeng, clasped his fists, and said, "How do you know that I'm using Storm Fist? I have some friendship with your grandfather, and you are really bullying the weak. But I remind you that people who practice martial arts should not only practice the body, but also the mind. If the mind is not in place, the moves will always be just the fur." Lin Yu bowed to Su Weifeng and said, "Lin Yu has learned from you. Let's go." Su Weifeng waved his hand and walked straight out the door. Everyone automatically made way for him. Lin Yu hurriedly said, "Sir, can you leave a contact number so that I can come to you for advice in the future? I don't have the time." Zhao Ziaoshu hurriedly followed Su Weifeng, and looked at the admiring eyes on the faces of the classmates on both sides. She had an indescribable pride and pride. Yao Yao and Shen Menqing looked at each other, and then they quickly caught up with Zhao Ziaoshu. The four people walked out, and everyone looked at Lin Yu. Lin Yu looked directly at Song Qiuping, and said in a deep voice, "Song Qiuping, I advise you not to hit Zhao Ziaoshu again in the future." Song Qiuping's face was ugly, but he still said depressedly, "I know. This is clearly someone that Lin Yu can't afford to offend. Although he is a rich second generation, he still relies on the friends he made in school. There is no one in society who can help him. Even Lin Yu can't help him, so he has no ability to provoke Su Weifeng." Lin Yu was thinking about the fight just now, and then his back suddenly felt a little cold. At that time, he didn't think Su Weifeng was so strong. Now he realized that Su Weifeng just stood there and didn't even move his feet. That means that the other party is much stronger than him. Just as Su Weifeng said, Lin Yu is really just a little kid in front of him. The Lin family is based on martial arts. When encountering such a master, Lin Yu must contact his family immediately. This is a very important matter for his family. "Ziaoshu, hurry up and introduce your boyfriend to us." As soon as they came out, Yao Yao and Shen Menqing started chattering, their eyes shining as they looked at Su Weifeng. Zhao Ziaoshu's face flushed, and he said anxiously, "Don't talk nonsense. Brother Su is my friend. As for the boyfriend, we know." Yao Yao joked with a smile, then stretched out her hand to Su Weifeng and said, "Ziaoshu is embarrassed to introduce myself. Let me introduce myself. My name is Yao Yao, Zhao Ziaoshu's roommate." Su Weifeng smiled, shook hands with her, and said, "Su Weifeng." Then he stretched out his hand to Shen Menqing. "I'm also Zhao Ziaoshu's roommate. My name is Shen Menqing. I really didn't expect that Zhao Ziaoshu would be so impressive and actually found such a handsome boyfriend." Chapter 233 Water Father comes to acquire the company. "Ziaoshu, no wonder you have always refused to bring your boyfriend out. It turns out he is so outstanding and so stylish. Are you afraid that we will snatch him away?" "That's right, I'm really moved. He is so handsome. Lin Yu is nothing in front of your boyfriend." Zhao Ziaoshu saw that her two roommates were looking at Su Weifeng as if he were a star, and she felt even more embarrassed. She could only say to Su Weifeng apologetically and shyly, "Brother Su, I'm really sorry, they are too naughty." Su Weifeng had a faint smile on his face and said, "It can be seen that you have a good relationship. It's nothing to make a joke." Hearing the two people talking like this, Yao Yao and Shen Menking looked at them in surprise. Shen Menking said puzzledly, "Are you really not in that kind of relationship?" Zhao Xiaoshu rolled her eyes at them and said, "How many times have I told you?" Then she directly told them about the last time Su Weifeng helped her, and this time, when Su Weifeng came to the school to do business. This is a typical hero saving a beautiful girl. You just might as well pledge your love to her. Yao Yao and Shen Menking could say these two long sentences word for word in unison, and even their expressions were exactly the same. It's not that they had practiced this, but this was how they felt about it, and it was also an instinct. Zhao Xiaoshu touched his forehead speechlessly and said, "Brother Su has a girlfriend, so don't talk nonsense here." They had already reached the school gate. Su Weifeng stopped and said, "Thank you. I have to go back to the company now. Xiaoshu, we'll contact each other later." Zhao Xiaoshu nodded repeatedly and said, "Goodbye, Brother Su. A BMW, it must be worth hundreds of thousands." Yao Yao muttered enviously. Shen Menking rolled her eyes and said, "Hundreds of thousands? Are you kidding? You think that's a 3 Series? This is the latest BMW X7, starting at 1.5 million. Oh my god. This is definitely a rich man." Yao Yao's eyes widened, and then she turned her head and grabbed Zhao Xiaoshu's arm with both hands, saying, "Xiaoshu, this is a typical rich son-in-law. You can't let him go." Zhao Xiaoshu smiled bitterly and said, "Can you guys stop being so materialistic? If you meet a rich man, you will have to sell yourself out." Shen Menking said immediately, "I'm not that mean. Look at Su Weifeng. He's not very old, only about 25 or 26 years old. He's so young, but he can afford such an expensive luxury car, which is enough to show his strength. Moreover, he is quite handsome and has such good skills. Even Lin Yu is not his opponent. The most important thing is that he is so humble and speaks very politely. He doesn't have the pride of a rich man at all. This shows that he is definitely a good man. If you meet such a good one, why don't you fight for it?" Yao Yui wanted to interrupt several times, but failed. After Shen Menking finished speaking, she suddenly realized that what she wanted to say had already been said by Shen Menking. She had to nod her head vigorously and said, "Xiaoshu, Menking is right. If you don't do it, then we will. If you miss this village, there will be no such store." Zhao Xiaoshu said with a smile, "It's up to you, but Brother Su is my benefactor. I will only respect him and dare not have such thoughts." Shen Menking and Yao Yao pulled Zhao Xiaoshu and kept instilling the idea of fighting for it. But Zhao Xiaoshu is actually a very stubborn person and has her own persistence, so no matter what the two said, she would not agree to do so, which made the two scold her for being a woodenhead. Su Weifeng returned to the company and was talking to Lin Zhuangxuan about going to the school to shoot a video next when someone knocked on the door. "Boss Lin, Boss Su, there are two people outside who want to see Boss Su." Su Weifeng said, "Let them in." Soon, two people walked in. One of them was in his 50s and had a majestic appearance. It turned out to be Xu Lingling's father Xu Zinian. The other one was in his 30s, with a low brow and a pleasant look. He was not burly, but Su Weifeng knew very well that this was definitely a very powerful character, Xu Zinian's bodyguard. Su Weifeng stood up and greeted him, saying, "Uncle, you are so kind to come. I'm sorry for not welcoming you." Xu Zinian smiled faintly and said, "It looks good. A young man who can set up such a company does have some ability." Lin Zhuangxuan didn't know Xu Zinian, and she couldn't help but feel a little confused. She just stood aside and watched silently without saying anything. Su Weifeng put his arm around her waist and said with a smile, "Thank you for the compliment. Come, let me introduce you. This is my girlfriend Lin Zhuangxuan. We are a husband and wife shop. Zhuangxuan, this is Xu Lingling's father." Lin Zhuangxuan didn't get along with Xu Lingling, but out of politeness, she still greeted, "Hello, Uncle Xu. You are quite honest." Xu Zinian didn't show any surprise on his face. It was obvious that he had already investigated all this. Su Weifeng asked Xu Zinyuan to sit down and said, since you know all about my situation, I don't know what your uncle's intention is in coming to me. Xu Zinyuan said, I don't know why my daughter wants to be with you, even though she knows you have a girlfriend, but this is absolutely not allowed. In order to stop her thoughts and let you separate, I will buy your company. You name a price. Buy our company? Lin Zhuangxuan screamed out. Xu Zinyuan smiled slightly and said, yes, little girl, you can name a price. Don't be afraid. Su Weifeng shook his head and said, sorry, we won't sell this company. Xu Zinyuan narrowed his eyes and said, what? You are embarrassed to make an offer? Well, I'll make an offer of 10 million. Lin Zhuangxuan's mouth twitched immediately. She had only invested a few $100,000 in this company, plus the investment of 5 million, 10 million, basically doubled. As long as she sold the company, she would make a lot of money. Xu Zinyuan was very satisfied with Lin Zhuangxuan's reaction, and then said, for 10 million, I will give you cash directly, and then you can open another one wherever you want, as long as it's far away from my daughter. You can take your resources with you, and I have no objection to your employees, if you want to take them with you. Su Weifeng laughed. He had been polite to Xu Zinyuan for Xu Lingling's sake, but there was no need to be polite now, so he said, sorry, I don't need the money. If you're not willing to do it for 10 million, I'll give you another 5 million. Young man, don't have such a big appetite, otherwise you won't be able to digest it. There was already a threatening tone in Xu Zinyuan's words. Chapter 234 Xu Lingling's father also wants to knock. Su Weifeng still had a faint smile on his face, and slowly said, whether I can digest it or not is my business. The main thing is, that what you gave me is not to my taste, so I don't want to eat it. Xu Zinyuan's face darkened, and he said, young man, I have to admire your determination, but you have to think it over. If you refuse me, you will completely offend me. Oh, did I offend you? Su Weifeng asked casually. Xu Zinyuan's face was gloomy, and he said in a deep voice, yes. If you offend Xu Zinyuan, you will bear the anger of their Xu family. Xu Zinyuan's current attitude has already expressed that he is very annoyed. So what? So what? Su Weifeng said these 4 words in an extremely contemptuous tone. Bold. The bodyguard standing behind Xu Zinyuan suddenly shouted coldly at this time. Although the voice was not loud, the sound wave seemed to have a very strong penetrating power, penetrating people's hearts. Lin Zhuangxuan only felt his heart beat violently, and his face turned pale. Su Weifeng held Lin Zhuangxuan's hand, and Lin Zhuangxuan calmed down. Su Weifeng looked at the bodyguard with a cold face and said slowly, you scared my girlfriend, apologize. The bodyguard sneered and said, you are so brave, you dare to disrespect Mr. Xu, you are simply looking for death. Apologize or not? Su Weifeng stood up, his face was terribly gloomy. Mr. Xu. The bodyguard looked at Xu Zinyuan. Xu Zinyuan nodded gently. Su Weifeng was so strong in front of him, so he had to teach Su Weifeng a lesson, otherwise where was his dignity? With Xu Zinyuan's approval, the bodyguard walked slowly towards Su Weifeng and said, I heard that you know some kung fu, so I'll come and see how good you are. Su Weifeng shook his head and said to Lin Zhuangxuan, that sounds familiar. Lin Zhuangxuan nodded and said with deep understanding, yes, someone said that last time. Do you think I'm someone else? What a joke. The bodyguard suddenly changed the subject, shouted the last 2 words, stretched out his right hand, and grabbed Su Weifeng. Alas. Su Weifeng sighed lightly, but his move was not vague at all. He kicked out with his right foot, and when the bodyguard's hand was still 10 centimeters away from his chest, his foot had already reached the opponent's lower abdomen. The bodyguard was indeed a good fighter. The speed of Su Weifeng's kick was beyond his expectation, but he remained calm. He inhaled and tightened his abdomen. His lower abdomen actually shrank back 10 centimeters. His left hand was already fiercely slashing at Su Weifeng's calf. As for the attacking right hand, it also fiercely moved downwards at this time, trying its best to stop Su Weifeng's kick. With just one move, Su Weifeng had forced the bodyguard who thought he was very powerful to switch from attack to defense. If he was allowed to defend like this, Su Weifeng would not be Su Weifeng. Such a reaction speed was really fast. The bodyguard's left hand was definitely confident enough to hit Su Weifeng's calf when Su Weifeng's leg stretched forward again. but Su Weifeng still did not change his moves, and his toe still kicked at his lower abdomen, looking for death. The bodyguard shouted and slashed Su Weifeng's leg fiercely with his left hand. Although this palm strike was hasty, it was enough to exert 60% of his strength. With this palm strike, he could definitely break a strong man's shin bone. However, reality is often far from ideal. Su Weifeng's shin was not broken, and was not even affected by his palm strike. He still kicked him in the lower abdomen with great force. Deng deng deng. The bodyguard took several steps back, before he could barely stand. His face quickly turned red, and then he opened his mouth and spat out a mouthful of blood. His expression suddenly became extremely depressed, and it was obvious that he had suffered a serious injury. Xu Zinyuan's face instantly became extremely ugly. This was a very strong bodyguard in the family, but now he was not even a match for Su Weifeng. Xu Zinyuan stared at Su Weifeng fiercely and said, "Boy, you really have some skills." Su Weifeng said lightly, "Your skills are not that great." Xu Zinyuan's eyes were about to spit fire. In this city, who dared to talk to him in such a tone? Are you mocking me? Su Weifeng snorted disdainfully and said, "Since you have investigated me, and the investigation is not so detailed, are all members of your Shu family at this level?" Anyway, he had already taken action, so he didn't need to save face for Xu Zinyuan. When he came in, he called him uncle a few times, which was already for Xu Lingling's sake. Xu Zinyuan's face changed immediately. Su Weifeng's words were obviously ulterior motives, but the prestige of the Shu family could not be lost like this. "Kid, no matter who you are, you beat up my bodyguard today. We'll settle this account later." Su Weifeng narrowed his eyes and said, "Oh, you want to leave just like that? Do you think that anyone can come and go as they please here?" Xu Zinyuan slammed the table, stood up and shouted, "Do you still want me to stay? What's the point of me keeping you? I have to provide you with meals, the money for my tea, and the cleaning fee for the blood he vomited on the ground. You have to pay for it, right?" Puff. Lin Zhuangxuan almost laughed. Su Weifeng's reason for asking for money was really weird. Haha. Xu Zinyuan laughed in anger, and then said, "Okay, very good. Tell me, how much does it cost?" "Not much, just give me 1 million. Xu Zinyuan sneered and said, "You really value every inch of land." Su Weifeng said with a smile, "Then you see, this place is valuable, otherwise why would I not sell it, even if you offered 15 million? I'm still counting on making money here. Okay, I'll give it to you." Xu Zinyuan took out a check, signed one directly, and then stood up and left. The bodyguard was still able to move. At this time, he looked at Su Weifeng vigilantly, and followed Xu Zinyuan backwards. Su Weifeng escorted him to the door, and said with a smile, "Uncle Xu, come and visit often in the future. I have plenty of tea. By the way, if it's boring for you to come alone, you can bring a few friends. I charge per person." Xu Zinyuan felt a mouthful of turbid air rising in his chest, blocking his chest and almost spitting out blood. If it wasn't for maintaining his image, he would have turned around and cursed Su Weifeng. This kid is too damn irritating. Chapter 235. Xu Lingling doesn't care. Lin Zhuangxuan was lying on the sofa, holding the check in her hand, laughing so hard that she fell down. Su Weifeng looked at her with a smile and said, "Hey, pay attention to your image, it's all gone." "Ah." Lin Zhuangxuan exclaimed, instinctively closed her legs, pressed down her skirt with both hands, and then glared at Su Weifeng fiercely, saying, "You are so vulgar, you can't help but look." She rarely wore this kind of professional suit before, but now she is also a boss, and she has to pay attention to her image, so she started to wear such clothes. But it seems that she has also developed the habit of paying attention to her image. Of course, it is only in front of Su Weifeng. "Okay, I won't look anymore." Su Weifeng smiled and sat next to Lin Zhuangxuan. "Humph, that's taking advantage of me. Rub my feet. Wearing high heels, my feet are sore and painful every day. It's so uncomfortable." Lin Zhuangxuan said, throwing her calves directly on Su Weifeng's thighs, resting her head on the armrest of the sofa, and lying down comfortably. This isn't lunch break. It will be embarrassing if someone sees you." Su Weifeng was a little speechless. Lin Zhuangxuan was getting more and more casual in front of him. Lin Zhuangxuan raised his chin proudly and said, "Don't fool me. If someone comes over, Can you not hear it? Okay, you annoying little goblin. Su Weifeng just rubbed Lin Zhuangxuan's feet. Anyway, he was almost used to such things. I'm really happy today. Lin Zhuangxuan shook the check in his hand, smiling like a flower. Su Weifeng smiled and said, it's just 1 million. Are you so happy? It's not just a matter of 1 million, but a matter of you completely drawing a line with Xu Lingling. You have dealt with her father and made an enemy, so she won't want to be with you anymore. I told you a long time ago, you are narrow-minded. Su Weifeng rolled his eyes at Lin Zhuangxuan. As he was talking, a burst of rapid footsteps came over. Lin Zhuangxuan also heard it and sat up quickly. Just as he sat down, Xu Lingling actually ran in a hurry. Did my dad come here just now? Xu Lingling's head was covered with sweat. Lin Zhuangxuan snorted and said, yes, he just left. Xu Lingling ignored Lin Zhuangxuan and said to Su Weifeng earnestly, Su Weifeng, I'm so sorry. I didn't expect him to come directly to my house. If he says anything inappropriate, you can hold it against me. Then you think too much. Now it's your father who hates us. We just got 1 million from him. Lin Zhuangxuan proudly shook the check in his hand, making a clattering sound. What? You got 1 million from him? Xu Lingling's eyes widened, stunned. Lin Zhuangxuan was even happier and said, that's right, I just gave it to you. Xu Lingling's expression changed rapidly, and then she actually chuckled and said, that's right, even Qiao Qingming's father came here and left in disgrace. How can my dad get away with it if he comes? This time it was Lin Zhuangxuan's turn to be stunned and said, your dad was blackmailed by us, and it was 1 million. Shouldn't you be very angry? Xu Lingling said with a smile. Why should I be angry? He is always so self-righteous. He always thinks that our Xu family is so great, as if others have made a big mistake if they don't listen to what he said. It would be better to teach him a lesson. I really want to see how angry my dad is now. You. Lin Zhuangxuan was speechless, and after a long while, she said hatefully, you unfilial daughter. Xu Lingling sat on the chair next to her, blinked at Su Weifeng, and said, since he blackmailed such a large sum of money, do you have to treat me to a meal? Don't even think about it. If you have the guts, go and hit your own dad. Lin Zhuangxuan glared at Xu Lingling fiercely, then felt that it didn't quite serve as a demonstration, so he lay down again and threw his calf on Su Weifeng's thigh again. Su Weifeng had no choice but to cooperate in rubbing her feet. He looked at Xu Lingling and said, you are really open-minded. Xu Lingling turned a blind eye to Lin Zhuangxuan's behavior, raised her chin and said, of course, I really don't like their behavior. I finally got rid of marriage, and they started to arrange me again. Can't I decide my own life and my future? Lin Zhuangxuan said angrily, if you want to pursue your own future, then go ahead and pursue it. Why do you have to pester Weifeng? Xu Lingling turned her gaze to Lin Zhuangxuan and said, I can't help it. Weifeng is so outstanding. He is the most attractive man I have seen so far. Lin Zhuangxuan, you can only say that you are guilty, and you are not confident. As a woman, I look down on you. Lin Zhuangxuan curled his lips and said, you don't have to use this lame provocation method. Weifeng is mine. Why should I fight for it with you? Just like if you obviously have something, will you take it out and fight with me? Xu Lingling opened her mouth, but was choked by Lin Zhuangxuan. She shook her head and said, you have a point. I'm indeed far-fetched, but I will never give up easily. As long as you are not married, I will have a chance. Only a fool would give up easily if he met such a good man. After that, Xu Lingling showed a confident and proud smile again, stood up and walked out. You are so shameless. I'm so angry. Lin Zhuangxuan kicked her feet angrily. Su Weifeng held her feet and said, okay, why are you angry with her every day? Let's study the matter of shooting videos at school. Speaking of work, Lin Zhuangxuan slowly calmed down and seriously studied the next work with Su Weifeng. Because they were too involved in the chat, even if they heard the footsteps, they didn't care until Sun Yumeng came in and exclaimed ah. Her face flushed, and she stayed there, and then they remembered that their postures were not very good. Lin Zhuangxuan reacted quickly, and slowly sat up, saying, I don't often wear high heels, and my feet hurt so much. I didn't see anything. Sun Yumeng quickly lied to herself. Lin Zhuangxuan explained lightly and then turned to the main topic, and the embarrassment was resolved, but Sun Yumeng's words made her embarrassed again. She glared and said, "You saw it, it's not a big deal, what happened?" Sun Yumeng stuck out her tongue, knowing that the two CEOs would not blame her, and then said, "I just suddenly had an idea, which feels quite good, and I want to discuss it with the two CEOs. Chapter 236 Two Old Shameless People. Shu Family. Shu Zinyuan smashed a valuable porcelain cup to pieces in anger and roared, "A bunch of idiots. I asked you to check the background of that kid. What kind of shit did you check? Is his background so simple?" The two people standing in front of him were trembling, lowering their heads, and not daring to speak. "Check. Check it out now. Check the kid's 8 generations of ancestors clearly. The power of the Shu family is really strong." By the evening, Shu Zinyuan had obtained another file on Su Weifeng. Both of his parents are employees of state-owned enterprises, and his grandparents live in a mountain village. They have been poor for generations. Only Su Weifeng himself has achieved the rank of colonel at a young age, which is a bright spot. Looking at these backgrounds, Shu Zinyuan frowned. With a glare, Shu Zinyuan shouted, "You have only found out these. This is absolutely impossible. Second master, there should be no problem with this background. These are all recorded. The problem lies in some of the things he did next. We found out that some time ago, because of the young lady's matter, the two young masters of the Qiao family and the Mi family in the provincial capital went to Su Weifeng for trouble, and then they both disappeared. After they came back, Qiao Qingming's father Qiao Yushan also went to Su Weifeng, but he kept his mouth shut afterwards. No one knows what happened there. These things are all unsure of the truth, so they are not written down." Shu Zinyuan's face suddenly sank. As an outstanding figure of the Shu family's generation, he is very sensitive to such things. The Qiao family is fine, not as good as their Shu family, but the Mi family is a big family in the provincial capital, more powerful than their Shu family, otherwise they would not want to marry into the Mi family. But the Mi family did not pursue it afterwards, which is a bit weird. Originally, this matter was considered as a breach of contract by the Shu family, and the Mi family was very embarrassed, so he could not contact the Mi family anymore. This time, he hesitated for a moment, and finally called Mi Xiaoyu, the father of Mi Xiangang of the Mi family. The phone rang several times before it was connected. "Old Shu, what's the matter?" Shu Zinyuan hurriedly said, "Third brother Mi, there is something I can't figure out." Mi Xiaoyu on the opposite side chuckled and said, "Old Shu, if there is still something you can't figure out, then tell me, and make me laugh." Faced with the other party's teasing, Shu Zinyuan could only smile along and said, "Last time, my daughter's engagement with Xiangong failed. Later I found out that it was all messed up by a bad boy. Xiangong just let it go." Mi Xiaoyu sneered and said, "You still ask me this question? The engagement is supposed to be a happy thing for everyone. It was your daughter who caused this mess, causing our Mi family to be laughed at. I also want to ask you, why don't you deal with that kid?" "I'm going to deal with him now, but I thought that with Xiangong's temper, he would definitely deal with that kid, so I didn't take it too seriously. Today I found out that the kid is still alive and kicking, which makes me very puzzled." Mi Xiaoyu didn't get angry at this time, but said lightly, "I have been waiting for you to give me an explanation, but I didn't expect it to be such a statement. You don't take my Mi family seriously." Shu Zinyuan said hurriedly, "This is indeed my negligence. Now that I know about this matter, I will give the Mi family an explanation. Even if we don't become in-laws, our Shu family is willing to be on good terms with the Mi family for generations. Then I will listen to your news." Mi Xiaoyu said, and hung up the phone directly. Shu Zinyuan held the phone in his hand, but his eyebrows frowned. Although he was conceited, he was also alert at this time. The Mi family did not provide him with any useful information at all. There are only two possibilities. The first one is that the Mi family did not take this matter to heart at all, and never went to find Su Weifeng again afterwards. But this first one was immediately ruled out by Shu Zinyuan, because Mi Xiangang and Qiao Qingming had already gone to find him. The second one is that Mi Xiangang went to find Su Weifeng, and like himself, he was also embarrassed, and then he was too ashamed to speak out, so he suppressed the matter. This kind of thing is very possible, but it still requires a prerequisite. That is, Mi Xiangang will not be able to get back at his enemies in the future. Otherwise, with the temper of these young people, how can they not want to get back at their enemies after suffering losses? So this matter is full of a weirdness. After thinking about it, Xu Zinyuan called Qiao Yushan again. The relationship between the Xu family and the Qiao family has always been good, and the Xu family is also bigger than the Qiao family, so Xu Zinyuan is much more confident. Old Qiao, I have something to ask you. Qiao Yushan immediately said with a smile. Second brother Xu, if there is anything, let's sit down and have a drink and talk together. There is plenty of time for drinking. I want to ask you something now. That Su Weifeng, do you know him? Isn't this the guy who robbed your daughter? Oh, haven't you seen him? Xu Zinyuan was immediately confused. Of course I haven't seen him. Why would I see this guy? Isn't he your future son-in-law? Why are you asking me? Nonsense. How could I recognize him as my son-in-law? Old Qiao, tell me the truth. Have you ever gone to see him and suffered a loss? Qiao Yushan immediately said angrily. Second brother Xu, where did you hear this? I, Qiao Yushan, suffered a loss there. Do you still want to save face? Xu Zinyuan's old face was hot. He had just suffered a loss from this kid. Isn't this insulting him? Qiao Yushan asked again at this time. Second brother Xu, what's wrong with you today? Is there anything wrong? Xu Zinyuan coughed lightly and said, nothing, I just asked. It must be that your father-in-law wants to see a son-in-law. This kid robbed your daughter. Even the kid from the Mi family can't do it. He is really a talent. Haha. Listening to Qiao Yushan's laughter, Xu Zinyuan felt so uncomfortable and aggrieved that he could only hang up the phone hastily. After calming down, Xu Zinyuan felt something was wrong. The news he had found out should not be false, and the people in his Xu family would never talk nonsense about this matter. There was only one possibility, that is, the Mi family and the Qiao family were hiding the truth. What was their reason for hiding the truth? Obviously, they were ashamed like himself, so they were too embarrassed to talk about such things. You two old foxes, you are embarrassing yourself. You want to laugh at me. After cursing in his heart, Xu Zinyuan's doubts came again. Why did the Mi family and the Qiao family hide it, instead of finding that kid to vent their anger? This is totally not in line with the style of their big family. At this moment, Xu Lingling walked in. Xu Zinyuan's face immediately sank, and he shouted, Lingling, come here. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 237 Father and Daughter Enemies. Yeah. Xu Lingling sat directly on the sofa. She put her feet on the coffee table, picked up a piece of fruit, and took a bite, then leaned back on the sofa and said vaguely, what's the matter? Can you act like a girl? Xu Zinyuan's eyes widened. Xu Lingling said even more unpresentably, so that those big families will like you? You. Xu Zinyuan gritted his teeth. Seeing his daughter, he was really angry. Originally, the marriage with the Mi family was a good one, but it was his daughter's nonsense that ruined everything. Now he wanted to marry with the Li family, but his daughter was too lazy to care about Lisa Heo. After taking a deep breath, Xu Zinyuan said unhappily, I don't want to quarrel with you. Now answer my question. See what you are asking. Whether to answer or not depends on my mood. Xu Zinyuan asked with a stern face. Let me ask you, who is that Su Weifeng? Him? Haha. Xu Lingling suddenly laughed, then sat up, and asked with a smile. I saw he got 1 million today. Did you give it to him? He actually showed off in front of you. What a bastard. Xu Zinyuan was furious. Xu Lingling curled her lips in disdain, took another bite of the fruit, and said, he is too lazy to show off to me. It's just 1 million. Do you think he can take it seriously? You really underestimated him. Xu Zinyuan narrowed his eyes and said, that boy is so arrogant. Do you know who he is? Him? Xu Lingling narrowed her eyes again, and there was an obsession in her eyes. She said slowly, he is the manliest man I have ever seen. He is very good at racing. He doesn't take people from big families like you seriously. The most important thing is that you can't do anything to him. Xu Zinyuan sneered and said, I can't do anything to him. Are you so sure? Then you can try. I tell you, he won't give you face just because you are my father. Today is the proof. This time he treated you like this, but it was also polite. If your means were more intense, it wouldn't be like this now. Haha, I remind you, if you want to make trouble for him, then go and find him. When you make a mess and ruin the prestige of your Shu family's second master, don't blame me. Xu Zinyuan shouted angrily, I'm your father. If I lose face, will you be happy? If you are just my father, then I naturally don't want you to lose face, but you are the second master of the Shu family. It's nothing for the second master of the Shu family to lose face. Xu Zinyuan knew that his daughter was very disgusted with these practices of the big family. Communicating with her in this regard would only make her feel angry. No problem, right? Then I'll go back to my room. Xu Lingling was about to get up and leave, and Xu Zinyuan hurriedly shouted, you haven't told me yet, who is he? I don't know the details, and I won't check his background. I just know that he is the man I like. After Xu Lingling finished speaking, she ran upstairs. Dead girl, I'm really angry. Xu Zinyuan really wanted to throw things, but this daughter has been against him for many years. There is an irreconcilable contradiction between them. It is not easy to say so much like this time, but he knew very well that his daughter must know some truth, otherwise she would not have such confidence. Su Weifeng did not take this matter to heart at all, nor did he expect that this matter would cause chaos in Xu Zinyuan's family. The next day, he and Lin Zhuangxuan brought people to the school. When they arrived at the school, it was more than 4 o'clock in the afternoon. At this time, the classroom had just been vacated, and the evening self-study had not yet begun. The utilization rate of the classroom was very low, and there were very few students who came here for self-study. Zhao Xiaoshu was responsible for receiving them, and Shen Menqing and Yao also followed. Xiaoshu, this is my girlfriend Lin Zhuangxuan, who is also the general manager of our company. She has the final say on all matters in the company. Hello, President Lin. President Lin, you are so beautiful. Zhao Xiaoshu excitedly shook hands with Lin Zhuangxuan and praised her directly. Ha. Lin Zhuangxuan chuckled and said, you are really good at complimenting people, but you are also very beautiful. After graduation, you will dress up well, and you will definitely be more beautiful than me. No, I'm just an ugly duckling. Zhao Xiaoshu was embarrassed. Lin Zhuangxuan smiled and said, the ugly duckling will grow into a white swan. Yao and Shen Menqing had been encouraging Zhao Xiaoshu to pursue Su Weifeng. Now that they saw Lin Zhuangxuan, they lost their temper. Zhao Xiaoshu is indeed very beautiful, but after all, she is still young, and it is difficult for her to get rid of that childishness. Compared with Lin Zhuangxuan, she naturally lacks some feminine flavor. Moreover, Lin Zhuangxuan is a CEO, and this identity is completely beyond Zhao Xiaoshu's reach. However, everyone is still very curious about shooting. There are also many people in the school who play short videos by themselves, but they all shoot them with their mobile phones. While this is a team, and there are all kinds of professional materials, which makes it look very high-end. Especially girls. Many girls have a dream of becoming a star. If they have the opportunity to see this kind of thing, they would go and see it. What if someone takes a fancy to them, they can also pursue a career in acting in the future, which is not bad. In 2 hours, Lin Zhuangxuan and the others had finished filming. After all, it was just a short video of a few minutes, so this amount of time was enough. When they were packing up, Zhao Xiaoshu and the other two came in front of Su Weifeng and Lin Zhuangxuan. Zhao Xiaoshu's face flushed, and he looked embarrassed, while Shen Menqing and Yao gently poked Zhao Xiaoshu from behind. Su Weifeng smiled and said, you guys have helped a lot. Let's go out for dinner together later. Zhao Xiaoshu said hurriedly, no. Lin Zhuangxuan also smiled and said, it's my duty. If you don't go, we won't bother you again in the future. Shen Menqing quickly said, then we won't be polite. Su Weifeng chuckled and said, why be polite? If there is anything, let's talk about it when we have dinner. He could see that Zhao Xiaoshu must have been instigated by her two roommates to say something, and Zhao Xiaoshu was embarrassed to say it out loud. Shen Menking and Yao Yao both cheered in unison. Zhao Xiaoshu was a little embarrassed, but she was even more moved in her heart. Su Weifeng clearly saw her embarrassment and didn't want to embarrass her. Chapter 238. There is a mission. In a mid-range restaurant, a man with 4 girls was very eye-catching. They were naturally Su Weifeng and Lin Zhuangxun. At first, the 3 girls were a little restrained, but seeing that Lin Zhuangxun and Su Weifeng didn't put on airs, the 3 of them gradually relaxed, and the atmosphere became harmonious. But Shen Menking and Yao Yao obviously didn't bring up the real business, and they secretly poked Zhao Xiaoshu from time to time. Zhao Xiaoshu had no choice but to blush and say, "Sister Zhuangxun, Brother Su, this is your company still hiring?" Lin Zhuangxun chuckled and said, "Of course we are. We are not afraid of too many artists, especially those with talents and characteristics." Zhao Xiaoshu opened the conversation, and Shen Menking became bolder and said, "Then can we give it a try? We are all seniors, and will start internships soon. Sister Zhuangxun, can you give us a chance?" Lin Zhuangxun smiled and said, "Of course there is no problem in trying, but I can't guarantee whether it will work or not. It depends on your own abilities." Yao Yao immediately said excitedly, "Okay, as long as you give us a chance, we will definitely work hard." Su Weifeng smiled and said, "But you have also helped us. The back door always has to be opened. When you have time, you can go to the company to play first. After taking a look, you will know what kind of people we need." Shen Menking and Yao Yao shouted excitedly again, "That's even better." Going home at night, Lin Zhuangxun and her mother Shenji were chatting there. The relationship between the two was obviously getting more and more harmonious. They were as close as mother and daughter, and laughter could be heard from time to time. Su Weifeng was sitting on the side playing with his mobile phone casually, but the phone rang. Seeing the number, Su Weifeng raised his eyebrows slightly, stood up and said, "You guys chat, I'll go answer the phone." After entering the bedroom and closing the door, Su Weifeng answered the phone. "Hello, Chief." A loud voice came from the other end of the phone, with its own authority, saying, "Boy, how is your injury? Report to the chief. There is some progress. Any clues?" There was a sense of surprise in the voice on the other end. "There are some clues." "That's good. Your injury is a huge loss to us. You must heal your wound quickly. Long Zio can't do without you. That bunch of guys will be fine. I see that they are more active without me." "Yes, they are active. No one can control them now. They cause trouble for me every day and disobey orders at every turn. I'm so worried." Su Weifeng raised his eyebrows and showed his might. He said, "Then I will give them a good lesson when I get back. They are simply outrageous. They think that I can't control them when I'm not in Long Zio. Haha, you kid is more useful than me. But let's not talk about that for now. I have a task for you." "Task? Assign me a task now?" Su Weifeng was a little confused. He left Long Zio this time because he was seriously injured. He came back to recuperate. It seems that it is not suitable to take the task at this time. "Oh, this mission is not difficult. It's just that an important person has come to your place. It was not a big deal, but I don't know how the news leaked out. Now someone may harm her on your side, so you have to protect her." "Protection mission, that's fine. You can send me the mission target." Given the domestic security situation, such a large-scale infiltration is definitely impossible. It is likely to be an assassination master. Su Weifeng is not worried about not being able to complete such a mission. "You don't have to take action yet. We are always paying attention to the other party's movements. If it is not necessary, I still don't want you to be exposed, so that you can rest assured to recover. When you need to come out, we will notify you. Telling you now is just to let you have an idea in mind." "Okay, I know." After hanging up the phone, Su Weifeng was somewhat confused. A person who needs his protection must be a person of extraordinary status, and a person of such status will cause some sensation wherever he goes. But here, it seems that there is no sign of any big shot coming. Hiding identity, but who needs to hide their identity to come here? Is it a secret visit? WeChat rang. It was Xu Lingling. "You did a great job. My dad's nose is about to be crooked today. Looking at the series of excited little smiles after this sentence, Su Weifeng was really a little amused and replied, I treated your dad like this, and you can still be so happy. I'm happy, I guess this is the first time he has suffered such a big loss since he grew up. He will definitely not let it go. He will have to think of a way to deal with you next. You just wait and see. I really want to see how you deal with it now. Su Weifeng felt that he could not understand Xu Lingling's thoughts. It seemed that Xu Lingling was completely unfilial to treat her father like this. Weifeng, are you done with the call? Come out quickly. Lin Zhuangxuan's voice came from outside. I'm coming. Su Weifeng put aside his thoughts for the time being. Anyway, if this matter is used by him, he will naturally know it. There is no need to worry about it now. Sitting next to Lin Zhuangxuan smiled and said, who's calling? Su Weifeng said casually, a former comrade. Lin Zhuangxuan said, comrades. Is there a comrade coming over? Then we have to entertain him well. No, just a few words. Speaking of this, Su Weifeng remembered something. These comrades of his have never come over once. This is really not in line with their style of doing things. Maybe these guys will come to kill one day. 2 days later, Su Weifeng and Lin Zhuangxuan just returned home and saw Su Weifeng's father Su Qianguo. Dad, you're back. It's not the weekend yet. Have you finished your studies? Su Qianguo forced a smile and said, it's over. Shenji didn't say anything. His face was gloomy, and he didn't look as happy as usual. Su Weifeng frowned and said, what's wrong? What happened? Nothing. Before Su Qianguo finished speaking, Shenji said angrily, what is going on? Your dad's studies will be over in half a month, and now the factory suddenly notified him to come back and said that he doesn't need to continue the study. The most important thing is that nothing has happened, but this is clearly cutting off your dad's path to promotion. I really don't know what these leaders are thinking. Why are you telling these things to the children? Su Qianguo scolded, but it was obviously confirming what Shenji said. Chapter 239 Father's promotion opportunity is gone. Su Weifeng frowned all of a sudden. He sat down and said, Dad, tell me the details of what happened. If we have any problems, that's fine. But if others want to bully us, that's absolutely not okay. Su Qianguo shook his head and said, it's nothing. Don't get involved. Shenji disagreed and said, what do you mean by that? Weifeng is an adult now. He is much more powerful than you. Don't always act like an old man and treat your son like a child. Of course, you have to talk to your son about such a big thing. Su Qianguo looked at Lin Zhuangxuan and smiled. He said, yes, my son is really grown up. He is about to start a family. Okay, then I will tell you in detail. This time, the study is an advanced class in the same industry. Students who graduate from this class will generally be promoted to the next level. Su Qianguo has worked diligently in the factory for half his life. He only got such an opportunity at this age. After completing the study, he should be promoted to the position of director. The director of an enterprise is naturally not comparable to the director of a public service system, but for Su Qianguo, this is already the last chance. Originally, after studying for such a long time, the matter was basically settled. Who knew that this morning, he suddenly received a notice from the factory, telling him to come back immediately and not to study anymore, and the attitude was quite impolite, as if he had made a big mistake. Although Su Qianguo argued with reason, he was no match for the opponent, and finally he could only end the course early. This study was considered in vain, and the opportunity for promotion was obviously gone. After Su Qianguo finished speaking, Shenji said angrily, how can they do things like this? If they don't want to be promoted, then don't send us. You called us back halfway. Aren't you just smearing shit on people's faces? Su Weifeng and Lin Zhuangxuan looked at each other, and they guessed who did it. Xu Zinian, the old guy of the Xu family, was obviously not convinced, but he didn't act directly on Su Weifeng, but first acted on Su Qianguo. For ordinary people, the opportunity of promotion is too rare. Cutting off your chance of promotion is definitely a very sad thing. But Su Weifeng did not say it. This kind of thing involving a large family is completely unknown to his parents. It is not their circle of life at all. Telling them will only make them more troubled. Oh, if you don't want to learn, then don't learn. It's no big deal. Our son is so capable now, and we still have to use you to make a little money. It just so happens that I can't handle the decoration alone. You can come back to help me." Shenji was angry for a while, and now he started to persuade her husband. Sukayango also smiled and said, "I was angry when I just received the news, but I'm not angry now. Since we don't have that fate, why should we fight for those things? You are right. I didn't even lend a hand to such a big thing as the child's wedding house, and I didn't even take a look. I'm not qualified to be a father. From now on, count me as one of my son's affairs. Uncle is really bold." Lin Zhuangxuan immediately gave Sukayango a thumbs up. Sukayango shook his head and said, "My son has started his own company, and my daughter-in-law is the CEO of a big company. I think I should really enjoy myself." Lin Zhuangxuan nodded repeatedly and said, "Uncle, don't worry, we will definitely honor you well in the future." Shenji didn't have the heart to make anything delicious today, so he just made a simple meal and everyone had a quick dinner. After dinner, Sukayango said, "It's still early, let's go and see the house. I'm really impatient now." Sitting in the BMW X7 driven by Su Weifeng, Sukayango thought it was Qiao Yushan's car, so he didn't ask much. The villa is now in the initial stage of decoration. The wiring, central air conditioning, and masonry work have all been completed. The next thing to do is some carpentry work, which may still take a while. As soon as Sukayango came in and saw the wide hall, he couldn't help but smack his lips and said, "If I rely on this salary, I can't afford such a big house in my lifetime." Shenji said with a smile, "Are you in a good mood after seeing your son's villa? Come, I'll take you to see our room. The young couple has specially prepared a room for us, so that we can come and stay at any time." Sukayango hurriedly followed Shenji. Lin Zhuangxuan whispered, "We can't just let this go. How dare you bully your uncle?" Su Weifeng snorted, a cold light flashed in his eyes, and said, "Since he did this, I won't be polite to him." "Then what do you want to do?" Lin Zhuangxuan suddenly became excited. "Well, I can't tell you for the time being. Still keep it secret from me, then I'm even more looking forward to it." Lin Zhuangxuan didn't ask any more questions. For such a thing, knowing everything at once would be boring. As Su Weifeng did it, she would know a little bit, which would also add some fun. When everyone was standing on the terrace, Su Weifeng looked at the neighbor's house and suddenly had an idea. This neighbor was also quite mysterious. Could it be that his protection mission this time was related to this neighbor? Tomorrow was the day when the carpenters would move in, so Sukayango simply decided to take 2 days off, plus a weekend, and help decorate the villa for several days in a row. Putting aside the worries of the unit, he was actually very happy. On Friday afternoon, Xu Zinyuan listened to the report of his subordinates. "Second master, that Su Weifeng is still in the company and doesn't seem to be affected at all. His father has lost his chance of promotion. Isn't he worried at all? Could it be that he didn't expect that it was us who did it? That's not very clear." Xu Zinyuan said unhappily, "HMPH, then let Liu Zinfeng go and give his father a warning and let him know that he lost the chance of promotion because his son offended someone." "Okay, I'll notify Liu Zinfeng to do this right away." The subordinate paused and said hesitantly, "Second master, 2 things happened here." "What are they?" "Vice President Zhao Yang of the bank, I'm afraid his promotion to president will be in vain this time." Xu Zinyuan frowned and said, "What's the matter? Isn't this matter already very stable? The real strength of a big family like the Xu family is not how much money they have, but the huge branches within their entire family. There are outstanding people in all walks of life, especially in various departments of authority. They have their own trained people, which can bring greater convenience to the family. Zhao Yang is another key figure they have trained in the bank. He is about to be promoted to the position of bank president. In the future, the Xu family will definitely have a lot more convenience in terms of funding." Chapter 240 The Xu family has accidents. Xu Zinyuan asked again, "Have you found out who is the one who caused the trouble?" The subordinate shook his head and said, "It's not clear yet. They just said that the provincial bank thinks Zhao Yang is not capable enough, so this matter has to be put on hold." Xu Zinyuan frowned and said, "Provincial bank? Does the provincial bank value a branch president so much?" I suspect that someone still wants to compete for this position, so they moved people from the provincial bank, but that person hasn't shown up yet, so it's difficult to find him for the time being. Okay, I get it. I will use my connections to investigate this matter. You go down first. The subordinate was about to leave, but stopped and said, another thing doesn't seem right either. What is it? Xu Zhengyuan raised his hand impatiently. Mine manager Liu Bing of Shengfei Mining was recently reported by someone. The materials were sent to the Commission for Discipline Inspection, but the Commission for Discipline Inspection did not disclose the specific situation. Liu Bing just talked to me on the phone and wanted us to find out about the Commission for Discipline Inspection. It's not a big deal. I'll go and talk to him. The Xu family also has many industries in the mining industry, and Shengfei Mining is a large state-owned mining company. Liu Bing was trained by the Xu family and worked his way up to the position of mine manager. He is in a high-quality iron mine, and a lot of the ore produced every year is given priority to the Xu family. If Liu Bing gets into trouble, the industry and the mining industry will be greatly affected. Fortunately, Xu Zhengyuan knows a few good leaders in the Commission for Discipline Inspection. He called Song Huadong of the Commission for Discipline Inspection directly. As soon as the phone was connected, Xu Zhengyuan said with a smile, "Old Song, we haven't had tea together for a few days. Do you have time to drink together today?" "Second brother, how can I have time? I'm so busy all day long." "You are so busy every day. Well, when you are free, let's have a good drink together." "Okay, I'll contact you when I'm free," Xu Zhengyuan said with a smile. "Old Song, I heard that Liu Bing was reported by someone. Who is the blind man who reported him? You handle this matter." Although Song Huadong is not a member of his Xu family, he has always had a good relationship with their Xu family, so he can speak with such confidence. "Brother, I can't do this." Xu Zhengyuan frowned and said, "Can't do it? It's not a big deal. You, Song Huadong, can't solve it? You are really giving me no face." Song Huadong smiled bitterly and said, "It's not that I don't give face to my second brother, but I don't know anything about this matter. You know, now all cases are handled by special teams. If this case doesn't come into my hands, I can't get involved at all." Xu Zhengyuan frowned even more and said, "Who is responsible for this matter? I'll go find out. I really don't know." Now in the Discipline Inspection Commission, it's a taboo to ask each other about the case. "Second brother, don't make it difficult for me. Our director called me. Let's talk when we have time." Song Huadong was obviously looking for an excuse to hang up the phone, but Xu Zhengyuan was helpless. After thinking about it, Xu Zhengyuan directly called Liu Bing over. Liu Bing was a man in his 40s. As soon as he came in, he said, "Second master, you are so anxious to ask me to come here. What's the matter?" Xu Zhengyuan asked Liu Bing to sit down and said, "You have been reported by someone." Liu Bing said indifferently, "Reporting? That's not a big deal. There are always people reporting us because of the mine occupying land, but these things are old things, and reporting is useless." Xu Zhengyuan breathed a sigh of relief and said, "Is that so? Are you clean in your daily work? Have you left any handle for others?" Liu Bing still said confidently, "Of course not. I have always been careful in doing things and there won't be any problems." Xu Zhengyuan nodded and said, "Then you should be careful recently. I always feel that some people want to deal with our Xu family. Your position is very important. If something happens to you, our Xu family will also suffer great losses. Don't worry, second master. The Xu family treats me well. I have been a member of the Xu family all my life. I know the importance of things very well. Okay, I'm still at ease with you doing things." As they were talking, Liu Bing's cell phone rang. Liu Bing glanced at the number and looked at Xu Zhengyuan. Xu Zhengyuan said, "You answer the phone first." Liu Bing answered the phone. It was a friend of his who wanted to invite him to dinner. Liu Bing said he was at Erai's place, and the other party said they would meet another day, and soon hung up the phone. The two did not take the call seriously and discussed the matter of providing, or in the future. Liu Bing got up and said goodbye. Xu Zhengyuan was going out as well, so he left the community with Liu Bing. As soon as they left the community, two people came up to them. One of them said to Liu Bing, "Are you Liu Bing, the mine manager?" "It's me. Who are you?" Liu Bing didn't know the two people and looked at them with some doubts. The two people's faces sank, and one of them showed a work permit in his hand and said, "We are from the Discipline Inspection Commission. Now there are some things that we would like to ask you to cooperate with the Discipline Inspection Commission to investigate. Please cooperate." What? Go to the Discipline Inspection Commission? Liu Bing was a little panicked. Xu Zinyuan immediately said, "You too, is this a mistake? Mr. Xu, this is not wrong. Please don't obstruct our work." Xu Zinyuan was shocked. These two people clearly knew his identity, and now they still wanted to take Liu Bing away. After taking a breath, Xu Zinyuan said, "Okay, Liu Bing, go and cooperate with the comrades of the Discipline Inspection Commission." After Liu Bing got a reassuring look from Xu Zinyuan, he followed the two people and left. Seeing them get into a car, Xu Zinyuan felt quite heavy in his heart. What's going on? Something happened to the people in the bank just now, and there was also a problem with the mining industry here. Is someone going to deal with their Xu family? The Discipline Inspection Commission seemed to be unable to intervene, so the old man in the family had to step in to suppress it. After hesitating for a while, he hurried to the old man's villa. The old man of the Xu family was watering the flowers and grass at this time. Although he didn't care much about the affairs of the Xu family now, everyone knew that the most powerful person in the Xu family was still the old man. "Why did you come to see me today?" The old man smiled and continued to water the flowers. "Dad," Xu Zinyuan told the old man about the two things. The old man said calmly, "This is obviously not an isolated incident. Someone must be dealing with us. Have you offended anyone recently? Offended someone?" Xu Zinyuan had already thought about this question on the way and said, "No, we have a good relationship with other families now. Now everyone is cooperating and win-win, and there is basically no friction." He did remember dealing with Su Weifeng's father, but he didn't believe that Su Weifeng and his grandfather had such great power. Chapter 241 Expelling Su Qianguo. On Monday, Su Qianguo came to the office again. The colleagues in the department hadn't seen him for 2 months. They all knew that he had gone out to study and would be promoted to director when he came back. As soon as he came in, everyone greeted Su Qianguo. "Old Su, you are back from studying. From now on, should I call you Director Su?" "Haha, that's for sure. I just don't know which department our Director Su will be appointed to. Of course, it would be best if he was promoted directly in our department. We old subordinates would all benefit from it. What's the point of our department? Since Director Su is going to be promoted, he must be promoted to an important department." Everyone congratulated Su Qianguo. Su Qianguo said with a wry smile, "What's the point of promoting? My study has been suspended." Suspended? Several colleagues in the office looked at each other. "Director Su, you are not kidding, are you?" Su Qianguo said with a smile. "What a joke. Don't worry, I will be with you guys for the rest of my life." No, you still have to find a chance to mention it. Then you are in such a good mood. You must be teasing us." Su Qianguo waved his hand and said, "I'm happy because my family matters make me happy, so I don't care much about work matters." "Oh yes, I heard that your son is back and found a company boss as his daughter-in-law, which is really a face-saving thing." Su Qianguo said proudly, "That's right, my son is promising." At this time, two people walked in. One of them was the company's vice president Liu Zinfeng, and the other was a woman about 30 years old. "Hello, Vice President Liu." Everyone greeted him. Liu Zinfeng looked directly at Su Qianguo and then said with a straight face, "I'm here to announce one thing. Su Qianguo will cancel his study and return to his original department. Li Xiaoting will take over the position of deputy director." The woman showed a sweet and bright smile and said, "Hello everyone, Li Xiaoting, please take care of me in the future." Everyone's face showed a look of horror. They never thought that Su Qianguo would not only not be promoted after returning, but also could not keep his original position. The position of deputy director was taken by someone else. "Vice President Liu, where should I go?" Su Qianguo asked with a frown. Liu Zinfeng said calmly, "Where to go? You don't have to go anywhere, just stay here." Su Qianguo said in confusion, "Here? Didn't I give my position to Li Xiaoting?" Liu Zinfeng's tone was still calm, and he said, yes, he is a deputy director. You just need to be a clerk. What? Su Qianguo was annoyed all of a sudden, staring and said, just fired me like that? Liu Zinfeng snorted and said, if you say so, then I have no objection. Su Qianguo clenched his fists and said, Vice President Liu, I need to know a reason. Liu Zinfeng looked at Su Qianguo with contempt and said, reason? You, Su Qianguo, have no ability and no technology. Although our company is a state-owned enterprise, it is not a place to support idle uncles. Now only those who are capable and responsible can be competent for leadership positions. You don't meet the requirements of our company, so we can only let you be an ordinary employee. Su Qianguo slammed the table angrily and shouted, if this is a reason, I don't accept it. Liu Zinfeng also glared and said, you don't accept it? This is the company's decision. There is nothing you can't accept. Then he said angrily, Su Qianguo, you dare to glare at me? Who gave you such courage? Now, you vacate the office immediately. Immediately. Su Qianguo felt that his lungs were about to explode. He had worked diligently all his life. Although he didn't have any great talents, he relied on hard work and worked step by step to today. No one in the unit had ever criticized him. And now he was treated like this. How could he not be angry? Okay. Su Qianguo squeezed out 2 words from his teeth and suddenly shouted in a manly and domineering manner, since you treat me like this, I'm going to quit. Okay. I'm going to quit. Quit. If you quit, get out of here immediately. Don't think that we are a state-owned enterprise and you can stay here. Li Xiaoting, you go and help him with the resignation procedures immediately. No, he actually dared to directly contradict the leader. He is fired. Everyone in the office was stunned at once. There is a big difference between quitting and being fired. An old colleague came over and pulled Su Qianguo, whispering, Old Su, calm down. How could you contradict Vice President Liu? Hurry up and apologize to Vice President Liu. Liu Zinfeng snorted, glared and said, apologize? I don't need him to apologize. I'm going to fire him today. No one should come to pretend to be a good person. Otherwise I will fire him directly. Those colleagues were scared and quickly dispersed. They felt unfair for Su Qianguo, but they still had to consider their own work. Who dared to really offend Liu Zinfeng, the vice president of the company? Su Qianguo took a deep breath at this time, glared at Liu Zinfeng fiercely, and said, Vice President Liu, you really want to torture me to death, but I, Su Qianguo, think I have never offended you. I want to know now, who did I offend, and what mistakes did I make to be treated like this? Liu Zinfeng suddenly sneered, turned around and walked towards Su Qianguo's office. Su Qianguo understood what he meant. It seemed that some things could not be said in front of others, so he followed him. Vice President Liu, can you talk now? Su Qianguo closed the door and stared at Liu Zinfeng. Liu Zinfeng snorted coldly and said, you are not stupid, but you can only blame yourself for giving birth to a son who is willing to cause trouble. Go back and ask your son. Wei Feng? Su Qianguo gritted his teeth and said, did my son offend you? Your son and I have never met, and I don't have that much power. The person your son offended is a big shot. You really gave birth to a son who is willing to cause trouble. So you have to admit this matter, whether you admit it or not. Su Qianguo's heart skipped a beat. He could give up his own future, but he could not be vague about his son's affairs. If he delayed his son's future, then he, as a father, would be ruined. Vice President Liu, you will definitely teach my son a lesson later. Can you please be humble now? What does this big shot want? Liu Zinfeng sneered and said, what? How should I know? I only know that you, Su Qianguo, have to get out of the company today. Chapter 242 Apology. Su Qianguo didn't care about his own business at all at this time. He immediately walked aside and called Su Weifeng. Weifeng, have you offended anyone recently? Su Qianguo asked worriedly. Su Weifeng asked back, what's wrong? I'm asking you a question. Today, the vice president of the company came to me and said that you offended someone. What did they do to you? Su Weifeng's voice suddenly became cold. Su Qianguo hurriedly said, I'm fine. I'm asking you a question now. He knew that Su Weifeng was young and hot-tempered. If he told everything about the company, his son might rush over and have a conflict with Liu Zinfeng again, which would be even more troublesome. Su Weifeng's tone calmed down and he said, "Does the company want to deal with you? Don't worry, nothing happened. If anyone wants to mess with our Su family, we have to see if they have the ability to do so." Su Qianguo was a little annoyed and said, "Don't say these useless things. I'm asking you a question." At this time, the door of the office was suddenly pushed open, and two people walked in quickly. They were the two top leaders of the company, General Manager Zheng Yuangxin and Secretary Zhao Songgyang. General Manager Zheng, Secretary Zhao, Su Qianguo and Liu Zinfeng greeted them hurriedly. Su Qianguo was confused. What happened today? Because of his own affairs, even Zheng Yuan and Zhao Songgyang came. It was rare to see these two big figures. Liu Zinfeng looked a little flustered. He was in charge of Su Qianguo's department. He could decide to deal with Su Qianguo by himself. He didn't tell Zheng Yuan and Zhao Songgyang at all. Why did these two people come suddenly? Zheng Yuan is a man in his 50s, tall and sturdy. He glared at the man with full authority and shouted, "Liu Zinfeng, Vice President Liu, you are so brave. Who told you to cancel Su Qianguo's studies?" Liu Zinfeng was startled, but with the support of the Shu family, he said in a deep voice, "President Zheng, this was indeed arranged by me." Zheng Yuan's voice became louder. "Su Qianguo is a cadre selected by our company. Why did you cancel his studies?" "President Zheng, don't be angry. It's my fault that I didn't report this matter to you, but this matter involves the Shu family." Zheng Yuan's face turned pale, and he roared angrily, "I don't care whether he is from the Shu family or not. Su Qianguo is a cadre of our country, not from the Shu family or the Huo family. No one can appoint or dismiss him at will, unless he makes a mistake." Liu Zinfeng was stunned. Although Zheng Yuan was not a member of the Shu family, he had to give face to the Shu family at ordinary times. At this time, not only did he not give them face, but he also spoke rudely to the Shu family. It seems unreasonable that Zheng Yuan would become enemies with the Shu family just for Su Qianguo. Zhao Songgyang said in a deep voice, "Vice President Liu, in view of your major mistakes at work, the company recommends that you stop working for a period of time and wait for the company to make a final decision before confirming your job." What? This time it was Liu Zinfeng who cried out. Zhao Songgyang is the company's secretary, the highest leader appointed by the competent cadres. If he said this at this time, it meant that he would take down his position as vice president. Don't you understand? Do you want me to say it again? Zhao Songgyang's tone was indescribably cold, and even with a kind of anger. Liu Zinfeng's mouth twitched violently. He was a member of the Shu family, but he also had selfish motives and his own future. He had worked in this company for more than 10 years, and it was not easy to climb to this position. If he was taken down, even if the Shu family made more efforts, he might not be able to rise to this position again. Doesn't this mean that his future is ruined? He was so anxious that he was sweating all over his forehead. He stammered, Secretary Zhao, I know I was wrong, but this is really excusable. It was the Shu family who made the request. You know, Secretary Zhao snorted and said, you are a member of the Shu family, but don't forget that you are in this position, which means you are a cadre of the state, not a cadre of the Shu family. You can do whatever you want for the Shu family in your personal affairs, but in public affairs, you must put the interests of the state first. You, Liu Zinfeng, abuse public power for private purposes, use power for personal gain, and suppress cadres. All these events are enough to show that you are suitable to be the deputy general manager again. Don't say anything. This is the final decision. No one can change it. No. Liu Zinfeng shook his head vigorously. He was unwilling to accept it. Just for Su Qianguo, he lost his position as the deputy general manager. The most ridiculous thing is that he originally wanted to expel Su Qianguo, but now it's good that he was taken down first. Zhao Songgyang went over and shook Su Qianguo's hand, saying with guilt, Comrade Su Qianguo, I really wronged you. Zheng Yuan also said in the same tone, on behalf of the company, we sincerely apologize to you. Su Qianguo was still in a daze at this time. This is the highest leader in the company. This is a leader who can scare countless people in the company as long as he frowns. They usually don't smile at all. Sukayango almost didn't dare to breathe in front of them before. Now they are actually apologizing to him, and they are still talking to him in such a tone. This makes him feel too unreal. Are these two leaders so approachable? This seems different from the two leaders he knows. Xiao Sangayang held Sukayango's hand and said, "Comrade Sukayango, you are a good employee and a good cadre of our company. If we lose a good cadre like you, it will definitely be the biggest loss of our company. You don't have to go to study anymore, but we will arrange a new leadership position for you, the director of the personnel department. What do you think?" Personnel department? Director? Sukayango's voice trembled all of a sudden. This position is very important. In a large state-owned enterprise, it is definitely a high-ranking position with power, and there is no production responsibility. It is definitely a place that everyone is willing to go to in the same level. Of course, this is also a transitional stage. With your ability, I think it won't take long before you can move up. It can still move up. Sukayango's throat couldn't help but feel dry. Moving up means that he will truly enter the core leadership position and reach the position of Liu Zinfeng. Zheng Yuan patted Sukayango on the shoulder and said earnestly, "You have suffered so much injustice. If you have any requests, you can also ask for them. Our company will definitely help you solve them." Liu Zinfeng was dumbfounded watching from the side. What was going on? Not only did the company take the initiative to give it, but Sukayango could also ask for it. How come all the good things in the world seem to be given to Sukayango? Chapter 243, Surrender. Xu Zinyuan was sitting on the sofa, reading a newspaper. This was a habit he had developed over the years. Even though it was easier to get timely news on the internet, he still had the habit of reading newspapers. But he was a little uneasy. The two things that happened in the past few days were not resolved by their Xu family. They still couldn't compete for the position of president. Those who were taken away by the Commission for Discipline Inspection never came out again, and they couldn't even bring out verbal messages. This was too unusual. With the power of their Xu family, it was easy to do such things before, but now it was so difficult. If they said that no one was dealing with them, it would be absolutely nonsense. But after checking and checking, nothing was found. Even if some insiders were found, the other party's words were unfathomable and clearly concealed. The door of the office was knocked, and Liu Zinfeng rushed in. When Xu Zinyuan saw Liu Zinfeng's face, his heart was shocked. If he hadn't been in a high position for a long time, his face would have changed drastically at this time. Frowning, Xu Zinyuan shouted, "What's the matter? Why are you so flustered?" Liu Zinfeng was about to cry. "Second master, it's bad. It's bad. Something big has happened. Something big has happened." From Liu Zinfeng's expression, Xu Zinyuan suddenly realized a very serious problem, then took a deep breath and said, "Tell me about the matter in detail." When Liu Zinfeng talked about Zheng Yuan and Xiao Sangayang's attitude towards Sukayango, Xu Zinyuan finally lost his patience and said in surprise, "You said that Zheng Yuan and Xiao Sangayang had such an attitude towards Sukayango. Are you sure you didn't hear it wrong?" Liu Zinfeng said anxiously, "Second master, I definitely didn't hear it wrong. I was at the scene. The way they treated Sukayango, they didn't avoid me at all. I saw it with my own eyes, and heard it with my own ears. Who is this Sukayango? When did such a powerful person hide in our company? Even Liu Zinfeng could see it. How could Xu Zinyuan not see it or hear it? Zheng Yuan and Xiao Sangayang's status is not ordinary. Even if Xu Zinyuan went there, they would not have such an attitude. Now they are so polite to an ordinary cadre in the company, even flattering, which is enough to show that Sukayango's background is strong enough." The old man called at this time. "Did you offend the ZHU family in the provincial capital?" ZHU family? How is this possible? Everyone knows that the ZHU family in the provincial capital is the first family in the provincial capital. How could any one of us offend their family? Arsehole, if you don't offend the ZHU family, why would the ZHU family attack our Xu family? The old man's voice was full of anger. Xu Zinyuan was quick-witted at this time and said, "Wait, Dad, was the ZHU family also involved in Liu Zinfeng's matter?" "Yes, I know how to solve it." Xu Zhengyuan linked several things together and finally understood at this time that the cause of these things was because he attacked Su Qiango first, and then their counterattack came and directly dealt with 3 important people in their Shu family. This kid is not simple, he can even let the ZHU family stand up for him. Xu Zhengyuan was not so angry at this time, but his fingers kept tapping on the armrest of the sofa. After a long time, Xu Zhengyuan called Xu Lingling. Lingling, come home for dinner tonight. No. Xu Lingling answered very straightforwardly. I want you to bring Su Weifeng home for a simple meal. What do you think? Ha. What are you thinking? Xu Lingling laughed all of a sudden. Ha. Xu Zhengyuan laughed and said, I've thought about it these days. It's better for you to find a boyfriend. I won't stop you. Inviting him to have a simple meal at home will also help you get closer to him. Well, I don't believe you. Ha, I understand. Did you cause trouble for him and get a loss? Now you want to get back together? I don't care. I will work hard on my own emotional affairs. As for the relationship between the Xu family and him, you can go to him to solve it yourself. After saying that, Xu Lingling hung up the phone directly. Xu Zhengyuan's face was so dark. Is this his own daughter? This is simply a joke. However, this involves the future of the Xu family. The loss is already big enough. These 3 people were cultivated by the Xu family with great efforts. If the loss is not stopped, the ZHU family will take action again, and the loss of the Xu family will only be greater. Their Xu family can't be said to be one of the best in this city, let alone dare to fight with the largest family in the province. Half an hour later, Xu Zhengyuan came to the door of Su Weifeng's company again. At the door of Xu Lingling's company opposite, Xu Lingling was looking at him with a smile. I knew you would come. Let's go. Let's go together. But don't think too much. I just want to see the excitement. Are you my daughter? Xu Zhengyuan's face was dark. Xu Lingling smiled and pulled Xu Zhengyuan's arm and walked in, saying, I'm your daughter, but you are here on behalf of the Xu family. Entering Su Weifeng's office, Su Weifeng and Lin Zhuangxuan were talking. As soon as Xu Lingling came in, she said with a smile, I'm just here to watch the fun. You guys can chat about your own things and you can ignore me. Su Weifeng looked at Xu Zhengyuan and said lightly, what do you want to do, Second Master Xu? Xu Zhengyuan coughed dryly. He wanted to put on the airs of an elder and show off the style of Second Master Xu, but when he saw Su Weifeng's cold attitude, he had to smile and said, Xiao Su, it is indeed our Xu family that did something wrong in this matter. I'm here to apologize to you on behalf of the Xu family. Oh my god, such a humble attitude? Isn't this the style of Second Master Xu? Xu Lingling screamed in surprise. Xu Zhengyuan really wanted to beat his daughter out. It was already embarrassing enough, and you said it directly. Where would he put his face? Su Weifeng snorted and said, what I hate most is to cause trouble to my family. If you are really capable, then come after me. Yes, I'm deeply sorry for the harm to your father. To make up for it, I have a check for 10 million. I will buy something for your father to calm him down. Xu Lingling immediately shouted, 10 million. This is not enough to pay off a beggar. At least 20 million is enough. Xu Zhengyuan was about to go crazy again, but seeing that Su Weifeng did not express his opinion, he could only grit his teeth and said, 20 million is 20 million. He immediately signed another check for 10 million. Su Weifeng took the check and handed it to Lin Zhuangxuan, then said lightly, I don't mind if you are willing to give me money, but if you dare to mess with my family again in the future, the consequences will not be like this. No. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 244 I support. Xu Zhengyuan gave Su Weifeng 20 million yuan, and he didn't stay here for 5 minutes. After coming out, Xu Zhengyuan actually said to Xu Lingling, let's go sit in your place. I don't know what you are doing. Xu Lingling rolled her eyes and said, then come in and visit my father. Xu Lingling's company has been renovated and is now open for business. This is a pure art company. Xu Zhengyuan originally thought that this place would be noisy and smoky, but it is actually not noisy here. Some of the separated single rooms can faintly hear music, but because the sound insulation is good, walking outside, you can't hear much noise. In addition, there are some people sitting in the hall outside. They gather together to chat, and the noise is not loud. Although everyone is wearing strange clothes, it doesn't look so annoying at this time. Not bad. I really didn't expect my daughter to be able to do this. I will support you in the future. Sitting in Xu Lingling's office, Xu Zinyuan is like a kind father, with a smile on his face. Xu Lingling rolled her eyes and said, "Second Master Xu, can we not be so utilitarian? You see that the other person is really powerful, and then you want to use your daughter to marry him?" Xu Zinyuan frowned and said, "Don't you like him? I support you to be with him now. Is this wrong?" Xu Lingling said unhappily, "I don't need your support or not, I just need your respect. You have to respect my choice, not support me, because you think my choice is right. Isn't it the same?" Xu Zinyuan muttered in his heart, but now he really had to coax his daughter, so he said with a smile, "Then I respect your choice. In your future marriage, we will not use family to restrict you. Is that okay?" Although she knew that her father still didn't really understand what she wanted, at least this was a good thing. Xu Lingling said, "Thank you, Second Master Xu." "You." Xu Zinyuan shook his head. Xu Lingling pouted and said, "Okay, thank you, Dad." In Su Weifeng's office, Lin Zhuangxuan fiddled with 2 checks and said, "You came to give me money so soon. What did you do?" Su Weifeng chuckled and said, "I didn't do anything. I just called ZHU Zhuangxuan. Is it that simple?" Lin Zhuangxuan looked at Su Weifeng in confusion and said, "Is a phone call worth so much money?" Su Weifeng smiled and told him the general situation. After listening to it, Lin Zhuangxuan couldn't help but exclaimed, "So Sister Zhuangxuan has such a big background. She helped us solve such a big problem. Shouldn't we thank her well?" Su Weifeng said, "Let's talk about it when we have a chance to meet her. It would be too pretentious to go there specially, but you can chat with her first and express our gratitude." "Yeah, that's fine. I really haven't talked to her for a few days, but to be honest, it's very stressful to talk about it again. She is a very important person. I'm just a little girl, not on the same level." Su Weifeng smiled and said, "Don't underestimate yourself." Lin Zhuangxuan walked around behind Su Weifeng, put his arms on his shoulders, and said with a smile, "Come on, take a photo holding the check. I'll send it to Sister Zhuangxuan." After taking a photo, Lin Zhuangxuan sent a message to ZHU Zhuangxuan and said proudly, "Yes, I'm Su Weifeng's girlfriend, so she can't not give me face, right? Now I realize that I'm really awesome." ZHU Zhuangxuan must be busy with something and didn't reply to the message immediately. Lin Zhuangxuan looked at the long string of numbers on the check, touched his chin, and said, "What do you use this money for? It feels like you make money too fast, which is completely beyond my spending speed." Su Weifeng chuckled and said, "Spend it however you want. The key is that there is no place to spend it. The house has been bought, the car has been bought, and the company is doing well now, and there is no need for money. Why do I feel that the money is too much, and there is no use for it?" After Lin Zhuangxuan finished speaking, he threw the check on the table, just like throwing 2 pieces of paper. Su Weifeng casually stuffed the check into the drawer of his office. To him, this money was just as insignificant. He could just deposit it into a separate account for his parents. After a few years, when he gave the account to them, they would be able to completely live without worries. When the 2 of them returned home in the evening, as soon as they entered the house, they felt that the atmosphere was wrong again. Su Qianguo and Shenji both sat upright, staring at Su Weifeng with stern faces. "Weifeng, don't you have anything to say to us?" Su Qianguo really had the dignity of a father at this time. Su Weifeng chuckled and said, "Okay, I confess. Please don't be angry, my lords. When I was on a business trip a few days ago, I saved an old man who had a sudden illness on the high-speed train. I didn't expect that he was an old man with a very good background. So when I heard that someone on your side was suppressing you, I told him, and he just found some connections." Su Qianguo snorted and said, "That's not what I'm asking. I'm asking about you offending people." Su Weifeng was stunned for a moment, and then suddenly understood why his parents had this attitude. They were worried that he had offended someone. Su Weifeng naturally couldn't say that he was not afraid of anyone now, and his parents wouldn't believe it, so he could only smile bitterly and said, "This is not me who caused trouble, but the disaster came from the sky. Yushan, you tell me." Lin Zhuangxuan took the blame directly, and now the cooperation with Su Weifeng is getting more and more tacit. "Uncle and aunt, this is really not Weifeng's fault. Weifeng helped a girl some time ago, and the girl fell in love with Weifeng. I knew Weifeng didn't like her, so I didn't take it to heart. But who knew that the girl's father actually thought that Weifeng seduced his daughter, so he came to make trouble for Weifeng." Shenji was shocked when he heard this and said, "You didn't do anything to that girl, did you? Let me tell you, you already have Yushan, and you are absolutely not allowed to have anything to do with any other girl. If you dare to do something out of line, don't say that Yushan won't let you. I will be the first to slap you in the face." "No, no, absolutely not." Su Weifeng quickly raised his hand to prove himself. He couldn't afford to provoke his mother's anger. Lin Zhuangxuan held Su Weifeng's hand and said with a sweet smile on her face, "Auntie, don't be angry. I know this very well. It was indeed the girl's wishful thinking. Our Weifeng is very clear in this regard." Chapter 245 Come and Pick Me Up. After her father came back, the house became more lively and more people were talking and chatting. But in fact, it was already a lot more inconvenient for Lin Zhuangxuan. She could no longer walk around the house in those revealing pajamas. There were also some habits that needed to be paid attention to. Su Weifeng could clearly still feel that Lin Zhuangxuan was a little uncomfortable. These days, she lived here almost every day. Without Su Qianguo, she had long been accustomed to wearing very cool clothes and wandering around in front of Su Weifeng. Sleeping in the same bed every day, even if there was no relationship between the two, they would really get used to each other's bodies and get used to showing their bodies in front of each other. After taking a shower and changing into cool pajamas, Lin Zhuangxuan rolled around on the bed, completely ignoring the fact that the pajamas could no longer cover her graceful body. "It's still comfortable this way. I really hope the villa can be renovated soon." Su Weifeng chuckled and said, "Yes, you can be more casual after the villa is renovated. That's right. It's uncomfortable to dress properly at work, and it's really uncomfortable to dress like this when I go home." "Hush, keep your voice down. If uncles and aunts hear it, it will be too embarrassing and make me look so immature." However, Lin Zhuangxuan immediately said, "Forget it, it's good this way. Why are you in such a hurry to renovate the house?" Su Weifeng said puzzledly, "What's your theory?" "Nothing, I just mean that, since it's already been renovated, it should be well renovated, right?" Lin Zhuangxuan said with a smile, then got into bed and picked up her mobile phone to watch. But she was secretly muttering in her heart that, if the house was renovated, Qiao Yushan would really come back to live, and then she, the fake one, would have to retire. Seeing Su Weifeng also lying down, Lin Zhuangxuan kicked him and said, "Hey, you guy, why don't you chat with my sister these days?" Su Weifeng said casually, "Oh, she is very busy recently, otherwise she wouldn't let you keep watching her." Lin Zhuangxuan glared at Su Weifeng and said, "Why are you so stupid? My sister is busy, doesn't that mean she needs care? You have been ignoring her all day. I don't know how my sister can bear it." Su Weifeng grinned and said, "You are right, but you are by my side every day, and I seem to have forgotten that she is not by my side." "Huh, stop making excuses." Lin Zhuangxuan rolled her eyes at Su Weifeng, but she still felt very comfortable in her heart. Under Lin Zhuangxuan's urging, Su Weifeng sent a message to Qiao Yushan. "Yushan, how are things going at the company?" Qiao Yushan replied to the message quite quickly, "It's okay. Is there any problem on your side?" "No problem." Zhuangxuan cooperated very well and didn't show any flaws. "Oh, are you together now?" Su Weifeng turned his head to look at Lin Zhuangxuan and then replied directly, "Yes." Qiao Yushan's mobile phone video request came. Lin Zhuangxuan was startled and quickly moved to the side and pulled the quilt over her body. This sudden attack made her unprepared. Su Weifeng answered the call and saw Qiao Yushan sitting on the sofa, which was clearly in her office. "Why are you still in the office?" Su Weifeng frowned first. Qiao Yushan could see Su Weifeng and Lin Zhuangxuan lying on the bed in the camera, covered with a quilt. Although it could be seen that there was a distance between the two, she felt a strange emotion in her heart when she saw this scene. This emotion was a bit hard to explain, and she was distracted for a while and even forgot to speak. What's wrong? Is there a problem? Su Weifeng asked immediately. Lin Zhuangxuan also noticed Qiao Yushan's strangeness and leaned over and said anxiously, "Sister, is there something wrong with you? If there is something wrong, don't fight it alone. Don't forget that Weifeng is your man. When a woman has problems, she should let the man help her fight it." Qiao Yushan came back to her senses and said, "It's okay, you think too much. I'm almost going back. Then go home quickly, and don't stay in the office." Lin Zhuangxuan rushed to say, "She really cares." Qiao Yushan pursed her lips and said, "Weifeng, can you come and pick me up?" "Okay, no problem." Su Weifeng immediately agreed happily. As he spoke, he stood up and handed the phone to Lin Zhuangxuan. When he stood up, the quilt was naturally lifted up, and Qiao Yushan saw the thin pajamas on Lin Zhuangxuan, and she felt an unspeakable emotion in her heart. Su Weifeng walked out of the room, and happened to meet his mother Shenji coming out of the bathroom. Seeing Su Weifeng was about to go out, Shenji immediately asked in confusion, "It's so late, what are you going to do?" "I'm going to pick up Qiao, my friend." Su Weifeng almost said Qiao Yushan's name directly. Shenji didn't hear it, and said, "Who else are you going to pick up at this time of night? Don't make Yushan unhappy." No, tell her, I'm leaving first, I'll be back soon." Su Weifeng took the car keys and hurried out. Shenji hesitated for a moment, and went straight into Su Weifeng's bedroom. "Auntie." Lin Zhuangxuan sat up quickly. Shenji sat down on the edge of the bed and said, "Yushan, you can't spoil Weifeng too much. Men need to be managed. If you don't care about him for 3 days, you will be in big trouble. Especially if other girls are interested in him, you have to keep an eye on him. Men like to have their fill, and keep their eyes on the pot." "Puchy." Lin Zhuangxuan burst into laughter, and hugged Shenji's shoulders, saying, "Auntie, Weifeng won't do that." "What do you mean he won't?" Shenji glared and said, "Look at your uncle, he's so honest, right? Let me tell you, if I hadn't kept a close eye on him when he was young, he would have been abducted by other girls. All men are the same. There is such a thing. Can you tell me about it?" Lin Zhuangxuan suddenly became interested. "You still want to listen to this? I want you to pay more attention to Weifeng's movements. This time, he caused such a big trouble. I'm really afraid that there will be some problems between you. Yushan, let me tell you, no matter what fairy or vixen comes, in my heart, you are the daughter-in-law of our Su family, and no one else can do it. If this kid really has any tricks outside, you must tell me, and see how I deal with him. I will definitely help you control him. Auntie, you are the best to me." Lin Zhuangxuan was moved and kissed Shenji on the face. They kissed like a mother and daughter. It's just that it seems that this position belongs to Qiao Yushan, not to Lin Zhuangxuan. Chapter 246 To press Qiao Yushan. Su Weifeng drove to the downstairs of Qiao Yushan's company. After sending a message to Qiao Yushan walked out of the company building not long after. After getting in Su Weifeng's car and simply saying hello, Qiao Yushan leaned back in the chair tiredly. Su Weifeng said, "You are a little too tired." "It's okay, just a little sleep deprived." Su Weifeng started the car and said, "Then I'll take you back to sleep right away." Qiao Yushan shook her head and said, "Let's find a place. I want to have a drink." "Drink?" Su Weifeng looked at Qiao Yushan in surprise, then nodded and said, "I know there is a bar nearby. The environment is still very quiet." "Okay." More than 10 minutes later, Su Weifeng and Qiao Yushan had arrived at a bar called Lan King. The bar was a kind of quiet bar, with several private rooms and more than a dozen booths. The melodious piano music echoed in every corner of the bar. Inside the bar, one of the two bartenders was mixing drinks. "Where should we sit? Do you want to get a private room?" Su Weifeng asked. Qiao Yushan looked around and said, "It's quite quiet here, so we don't need to go to the private room. Let's go to the bar and mix a couple of drinks." The two sat on the high stools in front of the bar. There were already 2 men and a woman sitting here. The 3 of them were sitting separately. In this kind of bar, generally, if someone sits in front of the bar and drinks, it means that they are single and can come to flirt, both men and women. Su Weifeng and Qiao Yushan came together. Although Qiao Yushan was a prostitute, she didn't come to harass him for the time being. "What do you want to drink?" Su Weifeng asked. Qiao Yushan said casually, "Let's have a beer." After ordering 2 glasses of beer, Qiao Yushan actually drank half a glass directly. Su Weifeng also drank half a glass with her and said, "You can drink without worry today." "Drink without worry? What if you get drunk?" Qiao Yushan turned to look at Su Weifeng. "If you get drunk, I will carry you home, or send you to a hotel to sleep." Qiao Yushan suddenly smiled and said, "What you said makes sense. I may not trust others, but I don't have to worry about you at all." "Yes." Su Weifeng raised his glass again to indicate. The two of them had slept in the same bed several times, and nothing had happened. Qiao Yushan may not trust any other man, but she has absolute faith in Su Weifeng. Nothing is more reassuring than something that has been tested in practice. Qiao Yushan drank another half glass of wine. Although she asked for another glass, she just sipped it. Su Weifeng said again, "If you have any unhappy things, you can tell me." Alas. Qiao Yushan sighed first, and then said in a very lonely voice, "I have a strong sense of frustration and powerlessness now." "Company matters?" "Yes." Qiao Yushan took a sip of wine and said, "I thought that, if I put forward my plan, let them see the prospects of the company, let them know that I can bring enough benefits to the company, they will let me continue to manage the company, but I was still too naive." After another big sip of wine, Qiao Yushan's mouth was full of wine stains. Su Weifeng directly took the tissue and handed it to Qiao Yushan, but Qiao Yushan did not take it. He could only wipe her twice with the tissue, and Qiao Yushan let him do so. They only think about how much benefit they can get from the company. They only think about how much power they can get in this company. No one really considers the company's benefits. No one considers the company's future development direction. Others are fine, but they are shareholders. Qiao Yushan angrily slapped the bar, attracting the sympathy of the people around. Su Weifeng said, "Although you are the president, this company is not yours after all. You cannot dominate your own company. This situation is also very normal." Qiao Yushan said angrily, "Yes, I understand, but when the results came out, I still felt an inexplicable sadness. Before I came, this company was just a small company that had been losing money for years. In more than 3 years, I have built the company to this point. Now they are going to kick me out. Haha, they are really ruthless." Su Weifeng clinked glasses with Qiao Yushan and said, "What do you want to do now?" Qiao Yushan shook her head and said, "I haven't thought about it yet. Let's wait until the order from the headquarters comes down. Now I'm still the president of this company." Su Weifeng said, "Do you want me to help you? In fact, I have a way to let you continue to run this company." If it was someone else, Su Weifeng would have done it directly. But Su Weifeng knew that Qiao Yushan was a very independent woman. If he used other means to help her without her consent, he might not only fail to gain her gratitude, but also make her uncomfortable. Qiao Yushan is a person who likes challenges. Even if she fails with her own efforts. Forget it. If the shareholders of the headquarters don't really recognize me, what's the point of me staying? I don't have to have this power. Okay, I still say the same thing. If you need my help, I will definitely help you. In addition, if they bully you, you should also tell me. As your boyfriend, I can't watch my girlfriend being bullied. Haha, you are a good boyfriend." Qiao Yushan chuckled. Su Weifeng's cell phone rang. It was his mother calling. "Zhuangxin is at my house. I can't ask you to go out for a drink now. I'll go and deal with it first." "Go ahead." Qiao Yushan waved her hand. Su Weifeng walked aside and then answered his mother's call. His mother was nagging, and Su Weifeng could only explain in a low voice that his friend was in a bad mood and he would accompany him for a while and go back soon. After a while, the mother finally let Su Weifeng go. Su Weifeng breathed a sigh of relief and returned to the bar. However, next to Qiao Yushan, there was a well-mannered man. In this kind of bar, everyone is willing to do what they want. It is very normal to approach single people of the opposite sex. If the other party refuses, they will leave tactfully and will not harass them anymore. At this time, the man was shaking a cup in his hand. In front of him, there were several bottles of different wines. It seemed that he was mixing drinks for Qiao Yushan. Bang. The man shook it a few more times in a cool way, then put the cup in front of Qiao Yushan and said politely, "My beautiful lady, a glass of flaming red lips for you." Chapter 247 Bartending Competition. Thank you. Qiao Yushan was already a little tipsy, and knowing that Su Weifeng was here, she was not very alert. She took the cocktail and looked at it with interest. The basic color of this flaming red lipstick is red, with a few other colors in the middle. This beautiful lady, please taste it. I feel that this is the most successful drink I have ever made. It seems that it must be because I met you who fascinated me so much that I was able to perform so well. The guy's eyes revealed a strong expectation. Qiao Yushan was attracted by the wine. She didn't go to the bar very often, and she saw cocktails even less often. This glass of wine, the other party mixed it with a high level, really made her feel surprised. She raised the glass to her mouth and was about to drink. Su Weifeng's voice had already sounded in her ears. "Do you want to get drunk directly?" "No. I see that the wine that goes with this is all low alcohol wine." Qiao Yushan turned her head and looked at Su Weifeng. The man looked at Su Weifeng with hostility and said, "Sir, the drinks I mixed for this beautiful lady are all low alcohol drinks. How can it make people drunk all of a sudden? Unless this lady has a very low alcohol tolerance." Su Weifeng was speechless. This guy clearly didn't know that Su Weifeng and Qiao Yushan came together. There was a warning in his eyes, meaning that I fell in love with this girl first, so don't interfere here. Although there is no strong liquor in your cocktail, it is too mixed, especially the two kinds of liquor, which are mixed together. It is easier to make people drunk. In some bars, your cocktail has a nickname called Wish Come True, right? What does Wish Come True mean? This name is better. Qiao Yushan was very curious. Su Weifeng said, "Wishes come true" refers to the person who mixes the cocktail, because after the cocktail is mixed, it is given to girls. After the girls drink half a glass, they are basically drunk and unconscious, and then the person who mixes the cocktail will get what he wants. The guy glared at Su Weifeng fiercely and said, "Sir, please don't make up stories. It's a bit too much for you to slander me like this." Su Weifeng met his gaze and said, "Huh, don't you feel despicable for using such means to deceive girls? So what? We are all out to have fun. I didn't force her, nor did I force her to drink, miss, am I right?" Qiao Yushan actually smiled slightly at this time and said, "You are not wrong. The cocktail you mixed is indeed very beautiful." Then he swept his eyes over the faces of the two, blinked, chuckled at Su Weifeng, and said, "Could it be that you, sir, also want to seduce me?" Su Weifeng was stunned for a moment. Qiao Yushan's smile was full of charm. This usually serious woman actually wanted to play a little. How could Su Weifeng refuse? He smiled and said, "A gentleman loves a beautiful lady. It's rare to meet such a woman who makes my heart beat. How can I miss her so easily?" Qiao Yushan raised the cocktail and said, "This gentleman has mixed a cocktail for me. What do you have for me?" Su Weifeng said, "Then I will mix a cocktail for you." "You can mix cocktails too?" Qiao Yushan looked surprised. Su Weifeng smiled and said, "I haven't mixed for a long time, but in front of a beautiful woman, I have to show off my ugliness once. Then mix it quickly. I want to see who mixes better between the two of you. If anyone mixes better, I will go with him." Qiao Yushan said, and winked at Su Weifeng. Su Weifeng couldn't help but feel angry and amused. Qiao Yushan actually said such a ridiculous thing. What if he didn't mix well? But after thinking about it, he understood what Qiao Yushan meant. No matter how Su Weifeng mixed the drinks, she would say that he mixed the drinks well. The guy didn't understand what Qiao Yushan meant. He said in surprise, "Miss, are you telling the truth?" "Of course it's true." Qiao Yushan nodded. "Okay, then I'm going to use my best skills. Today I'm going to open your eyes." Liu Xiang is a veteran in the field of women. In order to pick up girls, he specially learned how to mix drinks, and he learned from several famous teachers. This is definitely a guy who is willing to devote his life to the career of picking up girls. Usually, he relies on this skill of mixing drinks. He is always successful in this kind of bar. I don't know how many girls are attracted to him. However, beauties like Qiao Yushan's level are extremely rare here. If he can pick up such a girl, he can definitely brag about it for the rest of his life. Cocktail mixing is not just a simple mixing of several kinds of wine. The timing of pouring each kind of wine, the amount of each kind of wine, and the proportion of the 7 kinds of wine must be carefully calculated. Even the slightest mistake is not acceptable. Liu Xiang poured wine into the cocktail glass while explaining the method and manner of cocktail mixing. His serious look was really charming. After all the wine was mixed in, he picked up the cocktail glass and said, in addition to the calculated proportion of the wine, the most important thing is the technique. As he spoke, he had already shaken the glass in his hand from slow to fast. Whether the technique is good or not is what distinguishes the true grade of a cocktail. Only with good technique can the wine be fully blended together, especially with 7 kinds of wine. It takes a good technique to blend them together. Any mistake will not make it a successful cocktail. Liu Xiang's hands were like flowers, and the wine in the glass did not overflow. At least, that technique was very enjoyable in terms of visual perception. Many people in the hall came to watch. Even the bartenders at the bar came to watch. One bartender even praised, "Not bad, not bad. This level is really professional. This technique is better than mine. Now let's see how the wine is." Liu Xiang's hand movement suddenly stopped, and then gently placed the wine glass in front of Qiao Yushan, saying, "My beautiful lady, I wonder if this glass of colorful wine can satisfy you?" Various colors appeared in the wine glass, distributed layer by layer. It was really indescribably gorgeous and beautiful. Qiao Yushan's eyes also showed a brilliance, obviously quite satisfied, but just when Liu Xiang was about to do good things, Qiao Yushan said to Su Weifeng, "This gentleman, others have made such beautiful wine, what can you do to impress me?" Chapter 248 The Magical Bartender. Su Weifeng smiled and said, "Then I'll try it." Liu Xiang chuckled and said, "My brother, this cup of 1 Zikan Hang is a blend of 7 kinds of wine. A cup of wine is divided into 12 layers, and each layer is a different flavor. Do you really want to compete with me? How do you know, if you don't try it?" Su Weifeng smiled faintly and said, "I'll lend you some wine. Just use it." Liu Xiang was quite generous. Su Weifeng picked out 3 bottles of wine. "You only use 3 kinds of wine?" Liu Xiang asked in confusion. Su Weifeng nodded and said, "I only use these 3 kinds of wine to mix cocktails." Liu Xiang laughed and said, "Ha, then it seems there is no need to compare. No matter how you mix these 3 kinds of wine, it won't be better than mine." Su Weifeng still had a calm smile on his face and said, "Quality is more important than quantity. No matter how much wine you use, the cocktail you make may not be as good as the 3 kinds of wine I make." Liu Xiang said with some disdain, "How is that possible? There are really too few ways you can mix these 3 kinds of wine." Su Weifeng casually poured the 3 kinds of wine into the cocktail shaker separately. His action was just like pouring wine at other times. He didn't show any seriousness at all. Oh my god, this guy's not mixing drinks. He is not even as good as the waiter in the ordinary hotel. The wine is spilling. Yeah, is this guy here to make fun of me? As a man, even if you lose, you can't lose the battle. No matter what, you can't be stage frightened, right? So you have to do it anyway. Everyone laughed and joked on the side. No one thought that Su Weifeng could mix a good cocktail with this attitude. Qiao Yushan also felt that Su Weifeng was just fooling around. Anyway, this guy knew that she would definitely not leave with others, so he was just trying to make things better. After Su Weifeng finished pouring the wine, he smiled and said, "It's done. It's done." Everyone was stunned for a moment, and then burst into laughter. "Boy, you are so funny. Pour the wine together. Is this called mixing drinks?" "That's right. You have to shake it a few times, just to pretend. You are too perfunctory." Liu Xiang also laughed and said, "This brother, you are really funny. Just because you are so humorous, I'm willing to make friends with you, but this beauty is mine." Su Weifeng smiled and said, "Why do you think I lost? PFFT, you can still win." Liu Xiang rolled his eyes and said, "If you can beat me, then I will call you dad today." "Okay, I don't want a son like you. Please find me 7 small wine glasses." Su Weifeng said to the waiter at the bar. The waiter was a little puzzled, but today's matter was quite interesting, so he didn't mind cooperating with Su Weifeng and immediately took out 7 small wine glasses. Su Weifeng lined up the glasses, then took the cocktail shaker and poured wine into the first glass, saying, "This glass is for one heart and one mind." A guy burst out laughing and said, "PFFT, it really is for one heart and one mind. The wine is all mixed into one color. Isn't this what happens when the wine is mixed without any tricks?" Su Weifeng ignored the other's ridicule and poured wine into the second glass, saying, "This second glass of wine is for mutual consent, or double happiness." Qiao Yushan thought Su Weifeng was just saying something auspicious, but when she saw the wine in the glass, she was immediately surprised, because the wine in that glass was actually two colors. The third glass, 3 sheep to bring good luck. As he spoke, Su Weifeng had already poured wine into the third glass. Oh my god. It's actually 3 colors. It's normal to mix 3 colors with 3 kinds of wine, right? Normal ass. It's all poured from one cup. The first time he poured out the wine, there was only 1 color. The second time there were 2 colors, and the third time there were 3 colors. This technique is very clever. Then according to what you said, he made 7 cups. Doesn't that mean that the 4th cup has 4 colors, the 5th cup has 5 colors, the 6th cup has 6 colors, and the 7th cup has 7 colors? That should be what you mean. But he only used 3 kinds of wine. How can he mix so many colors? Although there were doubts, everyone's eyes were fixed on the cocktail glass in Su Weifeng's hand, staring at the 4th glass of wine he poured. The 4th glass, peace in all seasons. As Su Weifeng poured the wine into the small cup, everyone stared at it. After the wine entered the small cup, it swirled gently. The wine, which was originally 1 color, appeared in different colors as it spun. 1, 2, 3, plus the original color, a total of 4 colors. When the liquor was completely still, the liquor in the glass had already been divided into 4 colors, with distinct layers. "It's done." Everyone cheered. Qiao Yushan's eyes were now filled with excitement and excitement. It was just a cocktail, but she felt a sense of magic, and this magic was brought to her by Su Weifeng. Someone began to urge, "5th glass, come on, 5th glass. Don't make noise, don't make noise. It will be harder as time goes by. Don't disturb this buddy." It was Liu Xiang who came out to stop him. He was not annoyed by this magical technique, but was very excited and looking forward to it. Su Weifeng glanced at him, but did not say anything, and slowly poured the 5th glass. This time, the bar had become very quiet, and everyone's eyes were on the wine in the small glass. 5 blessings come to the door. Su Weifeng said softly, and the wine in the glass also froze in 5 colors. For the 6th glass, everyone held their breath, fearing that it would affect Su Weifeng's performance. 6 great luck. As Su Weifeng said these 4 words, the wine in the glass appeared in 6 colors again. There was only 1 glass left. At this time, everyone not only held their breath, but even their hearts seemed to not want to stop beating. Everyone stared with wide eyes, afraid that they would miss this most exciting scene. Su Weifeng poured all the wine in the cocktail glass into the last glass at once, and then held the glass of wine directly, and the wine was still turning in the glass. Red appeared. Orange. The second one is orange. The third one is yellow. Yellow is coming. Wow. The 4th one is also here. It's green. Cyan. The 5th one is cyan. The 6th one is blue. Wow, it really is. I bet the 7th color must be purple. Ha, I was right. Chapter 249. Take me away. Oh my god, there are 7 colors, so clearly separated, just like a rainbow, so beautiful. Yes, the most amazing thing is that only 3 kinds of wine were used to mix so many colors. Except for this, he didn't mix them separately, but mixed the wines together in advance, and then they appeared after pouring the wine. This is magical. The more they talked, the more excited they became, as if they had witnessed a miracle. Liu Xiang smiled and said, "You haven't said the name of this glass of wine yet." Su Weifeng smiled slightly, sent the glass of wine to Qiao Yushan, and said, "I hope this is a colorful auspicious cloud that I can take away from you." This is called the colorful auspicious cloud. Qiao Yushan took the glass of wine and looked carefully at the gorgeous colors in the glass. Her eyes became extremely hazy. Qiao Yushan squinted her eyes and looked at the wine in front of her one by one. Su Weifeng said, you can drink it, otherwise the wine will really mix after a while. Qiao Yushan nodded and drank from the first glass until she got the seventh glass. It's really beautiful and the name is nice. Then I will go with you today. Qiao Yushan raised the glass to the level of her eyes, looked at the wine in the glass. Her eyes were a little blurred, and then she raised the glass and drank the 7-colored auspicious cloud in one gulp, stretched out her arm, and had already held Su Weifeng's arm. Oh. Many people immediately followed suit. Although they were very envious, no one was jealous, and even thought that this was what Su Weifeng deserved. A girl with a very hot body blinked at Su Weifeng and said, wait, handsome guy, are you interested in a threesome? Can you add me in? Another girl with a sweet look also smiled and said, if you mix me 7 more glasses of wine like this, I will go with you. You can do whatever you want. Whistles were heard all over the place. This was the first time such a thing happened in this bar. It aroused everyone's emotions, and it didn't seem like a quiet bar at this time. Qiao Yushan's face was dark, and her fingers were twisting Su Weifeng's waist hard. Su Weifeng said hurriedly, thank you for your kindness, ladies. But I only need this beautiful lady. I like people who are devoted to each other. Only in this way can we have fun. If there are too many people, and they are indecisive, we can't have fun. Wow, handsome guy, I like you even more. Leave your WeChat, and we'll meet next time. Yes, leave your contact information. Qiao Yushan was frightened by the enthusiasm of the girls. She quickly pulled Su Weifeng out of the crowd. When they were out of the door of the bar, Qiao Yushan breathed a sigh of relief, then rolled her eyes at Su Weifeng and said, you are really popular with women. Su Weifeng chuckled and said, then you see, I'm still very attractive to women. Huh, you are so thick-skinned. I feel much better after drinking some wine. Let's go home. Qiao Yushan took Su Weifeng's arm and felt much better. Wait. With a voice, a person ran over quickly and blocked Su Weifeng and Qiao Yushan. It was Liu Xiang in the bar. Su Weifeng narrowed his eyes and said, what's the matter? You're still not convinced? Liu Xiang waved his hands and said a little depressed, no, I'm convinced. I'm very convinced. And I also know that no matter how good the cocktails I mix are, I will definitely lose. You two are together. You are just teasing me on purpose. Su Weifeng asked puzzledly, then what are you doing? Let's make friends. I'm Liu Xiang. My biggest hobby is to pick up girls. In order to pick up girls, I like to mix cocktails. Your cocktail mixing skills impress me. Whether you agree or not, I must make friends with you. If you don't agree to me, I will follow you today. Wherever you go, I will follow. Su Weifeng's eyes widened and said, you are shameless. Whatever you say, I'm relying on you anyway. I won't give up until I learn your cocktail mixing skills. Su Weifeng said unhappily, then you will be disappointed. There is no need for me to teach you. No, I'm very sincere. Liu Xiang tried to grab Su Weifeng's arm, but he bounced back and fell back 2 steps. When he stood firm and tried to catch up, Su Weifeng and Qiao Yushan had already got in the car, and then the car started quickly, leaving him with a face full of exhaust gas. Liu Xiang did not drive to catch up as he said, but narrowed his eyes and said to himself, oh my god, you can actually do kung fu. No wonder you mix the wine so well. It seems that this is also related to kung fu. This is interesting. Well, BMW X7, the strength is not ordinary. It shouldn't be difficult to find you. There were few cars at night, and it only took more than 10 minutes for Su Weifeng to park the car outside Qiao Yushan's community. When the car stopped, Qiao Yushan opened her eyes, shook her head, and said, we are here. Then she opened the car door and got out. When the evening breeze blew, a feeling of alcohol took over Qiao Yushan's head, and her steps suddenly staggered, and she almost fell. An arm was around her waist. It was Su Weifeng. I've had a little too much to drink. Qiao Yushan also leaned her head on Su Weifeng's shoulder. Su Weifeng said, just go home and have a good sleep. Qiao Yushan didn't say anything. The two of them kept this posture and slowly walked into the community. Qiao Yushan seemed to be getting more and more drunk. Later, she was already hanging on Su Weifeng's body until they entered Qiao Yushan's house. After opening the door, Su Weifeng half dragged and half carried Qiao Yushan to the bedroom. Qiao Yushan murmured, I can't sleep. I haven't washed my face yet. Su Weifeng said, wash it when you wake up tomorrow. No, I won't wash my face. It's too uncomfortable to sleep with this makeup on my face. Qiao Yushan insisted on getting up. Su Weifeng could only help her sit up again. Get me a set of pajamas. I can't wash my face in this. Su Weifeng went directly to the closet to get pajamas for Qiao Yushan. When he turned around, Qiao Yushan had fallen on the bed again. Please change it for me. I really don't like to move. Qiao Yushan raised her arm. I'll change it for you. Su Weifeng was really surprised by this request. Qiao Yushan closed her eyes and said, you are my boyfriend. What's wrong with you changing my pajamas for me? He must have drunk too much. Although the 7 glasses were small, they were still 7 glasses of wine. Qiao Yushan's alcohol tolerance should be average, so she was still drunk. Okay, I'll change it for you. He had some close contact with Qiao Yushan, and he was more casual with Lin Zhuangxun. So Su Weifeng was just a little surprised by such a request, and he didn't think it was a big deal at all. Chapter 250 Arrogant Directly. Su Weifeng took off Qiao Yushan's outer dress and put her pajamas on. His head was already covered with sweat. Usually, no matter how close he was to Lin Zhuangxun, he would treat her with courtesy. Now, he was really touching her, and Qiao Yushan was drunk and staggering, which made him even more unbearable. After changing into pajamas, he helped Qiao Yushan to the bathroom. After washing her face several times and removing the makeup on her face with facial cleanser, Qiao Yushan was much more sober. Looking at Su Weifeng standing beside her in the mirror, Qiao Yushan suddenly laughed softly and said, Su Weifeng, you could actually hold back in that situation just now. Are you a man? Su Weifeng said, what do you mean? Do you want me to do something? Qiao Yushan said, of course not. I'm just drunk. Even if you do something to me, it's my own fault. It's not your fault. Su Weifeng rolled his eyes and said, do you know how uncomfortable I was just now? You still stimulated me like this. Do you still have any humanity? Qiao Yushan suddenly said, what, are you going to be responsible for Zhuangxun? Responsible? Su Weifeng's face turned black, and he said, what do you mean? What do you think happened between me and Zhuangxun? Not yet? Su Weifeng frowned and said, of course not. Zhuangxun is still helping you. Oh, that's my misunderstanding. I saw Zhuangxun, and you so casually in the bed in the video today, and I thought you already had it. But if you really have feelings for each other, it doesn't seem to be a big deal. Forget it. Zhuangxun is so good to you as her sister. How could she steal your boyfriend? Today she was blaming me for not calling you or something. Qiao Yushan shook her head and said, I'm sorry, I really shouldn't think that way. If you were that kind of person, you would probably be having sex with me right now. It's good that you know. Su Weifeng also shook his head. Qiao Yushan was still a little abnormal today. Normally she wouldn't be so sensitive or sentimental. It was the recent company affairs that caused her to have strong emotional fluctuations. After cleaning up, Qiao Yushan walked away by herself. After returning to the bedroom and lying down, Su Weifeng said, if you have nothing to do, I will go home first. Otherwise, my mother will scold me for being wild outside when my girlfriend is at home. Qiao Yushan rolled her eyes and said, I'm your girlfriend, okay? Yes, but in my mother's eyes, whoever lives in her house is her. HMPH. Tell Zhuangxun that I will go back in less than 2 days and will not need her anymore. Ha, then it's up to you. Su Weifeng chuckled and walked out of the room. The next day, Qiao Yushan got up very early. After cleaning up, she rushed to the company early. Sitting in her boss chair, with her hands on the familiar desk, Qiao Yushan felt a little sad. She was afraid that she would leave here in less than 2 days. Haha, President Qiao, you are here so early. With a laugh, directly walked in and sat directly opposite the desk, with his feet raised and placed on the desk. This is definitely a kind of contempt for Qiao Yushan. After lighting a cigarette, directly took a puff, exhaled a smoke ring, and said slowly, I can understand you. After all, you are about to leave this company. This company is built by you. You must have a special feeling. You are reluctant to leave. This is also very normal. Qiao Yushan looked at Director Lee coldly and said, Director Lee, I'm still the president here. This is still my office. You have to be respectful here. Director Lee snapped his fingers and said, I like your strong personality, Yushan. Then he narrowed his eyes and said, why don't you consider my suggestion? If you agree to me and be with me, then I will definitely ensure that you will continue to be in charge of this company. You, Qiao Yushan, still have the final say here. Qiao Yushan's face was livid, and she gritted her teeth and said, there are scum like you in the head office. You are simply a borer in the company. Director Lee said calmly, Qiao Yushan, you don't have to say that. Everyone is for themselves. Aren't you just reluctant to give up this position? I can tell you clearly that whether you can keep this position now depends on my words. This is your last chance. If you don't grasp it, you can only be transferred. Qiao Yushan pointed to the door and shouted loudly, get out, don't dream. I feel sick when I see a scum like you. Director Lee's face sank and said, Qiao Yushan, are you sure you really don't want this opportunity? No. Get out. Qiao Yushan directly picked up a folder on the table and threw it at Director Lee. At this time, she was really furious. What kind of manners should she show at this time? If she were a man, she would definitely rush up and beat this guy up to vent her anger. Good. Very good. Director Lee raised his hand to block the folder and said with a gloomy face, Qiao Yushan, then you should pack up and get out. If you don't agree to me, there will be no place for you in this company. Get out. Qiao Yushan already had a sharp pair of scissors in her hand. Director Lee jumped up immediately, backing away, and said in a timid tone, I never thought you were a crazy woman. Enjoy your last moments. Someone from the head office will come to announce your appointment soon. After Director Lee fled, Qiao Yushan took a deep breath and calmed down her furious emotions. Although she had thought a lot more about it when she was with Su Weifeng yesterday and was well prepared today, she was still so angry when she really faced it, and she still couldn't let herself face it calmly. The secretary walked in. From the time Qiao Yushan came to the company, she was Qiao Yushan's secretary. Seeing Qiao Yushan's ugly face, she hesitated for a moment before saying cautiously, Mr. Qiao, the people from the head office have arrived in the hall and will probably come up soon. Qiao Yushan shook her head gently, then smiled bitterly and said, they came quite quickly. It seems we can't work together in the future. Yushan also said angrily, Mr. Qiao, these people are really too much. If the company didn't have you, how could it have developed so well? They actually did this. It's really disheartening. This is the business world. There's nothing we can do. Yushan hesitated for a moment and said, I think the people in the head office are not necessarily so confused. Maybe they came here this time to support you. Support me? Haha. Qiao Yushan shook her head. Things had come to this point. This could only be said to be a fantasy. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.